allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, first up, we will adopt the agenda. One thing I know we are doing is we're switching the treasurer's report.
Yep, with the sheriff's report, is good.
Yeah, so we'll switch that to treasurer's report to 10:30 and the sheriff's report will be at 11.
Yep.
Do we have any other changes that we need to do? All right, yeah.
We adopt the agenda with the adjustment of the time frame from 10 sheriff to 11 o'clock in the church report center.
All those in favor? Meeting minutes of April 2nd.
I can get that to me.
It's good to me as well.
Okay.
All right.
I move that we approve the minutes of April 2nd as presented.
All in favor? Right, we are on to public comment. And if those in the room want to just introduce themselves, those from the room, and you've been here before, but for the sake of people who are watching, it was good to introduce ourselves. So I'm starting with you.
My name is Nathan Hills. I'm from Wilton. I'm just here to learn. Doug Hills, Wilton, here to observe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Christopher Wainwright, Sheriff, Washington. Jim Urquhart, Chief Deputy, Oxford County.
Dana Thompson, Major, Oxford County.
Mike Vance, State Representative, District 79.
Oh, should be Oxford County.
Then local Oxford County.
So Nathan, when last time you were here, you did have questions about the credit reserve accounts. And, our administrator, Zane did look up the legal language for that, and I just wanted to address that with him since.
Yep, you had asked about the counties and the municipalities that you said you found a lot of documentation in regards to municipalities. This just shows the capital reserve accounts, under 921, that the county assumes the position of the municipalities and the commissioners have the right of the select board. There's a copy if you would like it. And if you have any questions, you can certainly get with me, or make a public comment today.
Happy to have you bring that up again if you have further concerns.
I can bring that right now.
Sure.
So this is the one I quoted.
Okay.
So there's a difference between capital reserve and credit reserve.
Okay. I guess that was your question.
So you have to have all three sections to look at it.
Right.
Section 50 has three subsections, 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 refer to capital reserve. That subsection 3 refers to credit reserves. 921 clarifies that counties have the authority to establish capital reserve accounts. It doesn't mention credit reserve accounts.
Okay, I misunderstood. Sorry, sir.
So 921 specifies how subsections 1 and 2, which contain the capital reserve accounts, apply equally to counties. It doesn't mention subsection 3. Subsection 3 of 5801 is the one that applies to credit reserves.
Well, I will take a closer look at that and follow up with you next meeting if you attend. That sound fair?
You'll have my email too, because I emailed the treasurer, so.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
We'll look for that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, so we have the town of Bethel coming in at 9:30, but we're definitely ahead of schedule on that, so maybe we should take some. There other items. We have Tony here, we could do the Sweden Tower activity.
Yeah, we could, if we. Also, we could do the, consider request for vacation payout, which is at 12, which doesn't really. It's a contractual opening and you really don't need anybody else from the, from the. Time of the year, for that, and that would be, a request by, Louis Nelson from the sheriff's office. They are contractually allowed to have 1 week's of, pay, and he's requesting it. That's how I'm looking for.
Where's to find it? Okay. All right, article number 4.
Yep.
Awesome, and this is part of this contract, so I am ready for a motion. Listening.
I move that we approve the payout of 1 week's vacation work to Deputy Bill Nelson, also Willie Nelson, for a contract.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
All right, so Tony, would it be all right to move on to the Sweden Tower? You think that's you?
Be fine.
That'd be fun? Okay.
Let's skip Article 6 until Tamara arrives.
Yes, well, I was thinking we would go right to Article 11.
Yeah, that's Jeff.
Oh, it's Jeff.
Yeah, Sweden
Okay,
Tower,
right,
the Sweden radio transfers.
Yeah, okay,
is Jeff.
well. I know that last time we moved ourselves around a bit, but also. We can't just wait for 20 minutes. So do you think, we'll just move to unorganized territory and just do that?
I can talk to Article 7, 8, 9,
Let's,
and
let's start with Article 7, which is the UT Boardwell Bridge.
Yep.
Albany Township.
So Wardwell Bridge is located in Albany Township. It's, was built in the 30s, 40s. And I just received a report from Maine DOT that, they inspected it last fall. Maine DOT inspects them every 2 years.
Hello, where I'm going.
So Maine DOT inspects bridges every 2 years, and the report came back that the bridge is okay. Usually in 30 days, if they're gonna downsize the rating, go down from current rate to a lower rate, 22 tons or lower, under 202 tons, bus, fire trucks, anything for that nature, public safety, get across it. So our rating is fine right now, but I'm afraid in 2 years, being the fall of 27, they inspect it again. We will not pass the inspection and public safety will be at risk. So I've been out, I've got an engineering estimate, which I believe is included. And what I would like to do so that we are shovel ready is perform the engineering, upfront at the cost of the county. The bridge replacement estimate is going to be around $800,000 at this time. There was no stream crossing grants. My proposal is to replace the bridge with a box culvert, which is much more durable and the life of them are much longer than bridges. And it will open up the waterway of the Crooked River because it's bottlenecked at that area. So we'll open it up. The regulation is 1.25% larger than the opening now, which is 15 feet. But I'd like to open a little bit more and maybe prevent some of the flooding that happens at high levels. So that will increase the cost a little, probably 50,000 by opening that much as the cost of the culvert. All the excavation, all that's gonna happen anyways. So the engineering came in at around $35,000. There's no stream crossing grants here in 2026. But the stream crossing grants are usually in the 200,000 range, so there's gonna be money out of the county anyways. So my proposal is proceed, so we're shovel ready, so when the grants are available, we'll apply. And these costs could be absorbed by the grant, but it's gonna be cost from the county anyways, so.
And we also need to be shovel ready in order to apply for grants, is that right?
No, we've done, got the grants before and then proceeded. But in 2 years, if we get posted, I want to make sure I'm ready to pull the trigger on it no matter what. And even if we do it ahead of time, I get a grant to do it ahead of time before 27 inspection, because even 30 days they'll post it. So my recommendation is proceed as soon as the grants are available, but the engineering would be nice to have shovel ready.
And we are hearing from them, the last grant that we applied for, they wanted us to be shovel ready and they prioritize those people at work. So I think this is an appropriate step.
And you can see some of the pictures, I think, in the DOT report. Included as well.
We also have the money in the budget for this.
It's a capital, it would be a capital project, so there is that.
Ultimately, Tony, the cost of the repair of the project itself will be funded through UT and DOT.
It'll be UT monies. And Maine DOT does not supply any funds for county roads and bridges.
That UT will cover.
UT would cover it. Very similar to what we did on East Speed Hill and in Milton last year. And we did one in Albany the year before. And the year before that, we did another one in Albany, so. But there's money, the stream crossing grants and legislation, but it's not gonna be passed in this session. It'll be rolled over into the next session.
Okay.
We need a application.
I move that we approve up to $35,000 for an engineering study on the Waterville Bridge in Albany.
Could we go to article number 8, Tony?
Yes, we could. Okay, so article number 8 is we received, I think last commissioners meeting, I spoke of possible postings of Vernon Street, because of construction that's gonna happen on Route 535, all the way from, Stoneham, Waterford line to Bethel. So the project's, $18 million. They've been doing road clearances all the way through this winter, and now the bid is supposed to go out on the 22nd. And they're looking for a permission for, before they go out to bid, they want the county to consider us allowing overweight loads across county roads. So in the interest of infrastructure improvements and so forth, then my recommendation is to allow it with permitting, and we sign the paperwork with Maine DOT. But I recommend asking for a bond if any road damage does occur from these heavy roads to protect ourselves. It's totally within statute, and it promotes the infrastructure changes and improvements on Route 5. So that's the proposal. It's a lot of information. The same information was sent to the town of Bethel. I do not believe it was sent to town of Greenwood because they are part of Vernon Street as well. So municipal roads that could be affected are Hunts Corner, in my opinion, in the county, Hunts Corner and Albany Town. Hunts Corner and Vernon Street and Albany Township. We just paved a section of Vernon Street last year, so I just want to protect that asset.
So can you just tell me, practically speaking, what would constitute us acting on the bond and saying, okay, this damage means, this amount of damage means that you have to, repair the road? Because obviously, I mean, you can see roads where heavy vehicles go across, it just kind of dips down, and it impacts the structural integrity of the road, but it doesn't necessarily show up at the moment. It shows up X amount of years later or whatever, X amount of months later, however that happens to be. So is it just if it happens to actually crumble, or I mean, what's that? How do you?
No, I think we can actually put language in there that, is it evaluated after 2 years after the use and the completion of those heavy loads and that construction. That's up to us to include that with the Maine DOT. And they're trying to get the information so they can supply that to the bidders, so they know what their response is and they can bid accordingly. So there should be a site inspection prior to with Maine DOT and myself to inspect and document areas that could be affected, and then do a final inspection, inspect during the construction project, and do a final inspection immediately after, and then 1-2 years, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Having some measure of what
Yeah.
we're looking at.
And there's no limit on the bond. It's usually priced per mile, and the average is between $10,000 and $15,000 per mile. So the latest information I got from Maine DOT is 14,000 is pretty common for a municipal road of that size and the amount of traffic it has. So, but it's up to the commissioners on what value you want to put on. So I recommend 14,000. Going with a standard that's been seen in the past.
All right, and so I assume if we do this vote today, that you will create language in that talks about the metrics and.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
And the motion do you need, Tony?
I really needed a signature.
Second.
Yeah.
I would think that we made a motion to accept this agreement with language of requiring a bond of $14,000 a mile. That way we'll open you to having that documented within the agenda in the minutes that this is signed.
And I'll prepare that language before you leave today for signature.
That motion passed.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, good, and that is Article 8. And we still have 10 minutes. So Article 10, okay.
9?
9, whatever one you think is good for 10 minutes, here we go. You tell
I
me.
do all of them, yeah.
All right, that's good, let's go, man.
Just don't ask any questions. So Article 9 is we applied for NBRC grant for a new tower in the unorganized townships. So the grant amount was, we applied, it was due on February 28th, I believe. And pretty short notice, but we did get one put together with a budget. We had pretty good descriptions from the radio towers that we have already completed. And we based it on the UT when deputies, myself, any emergency services up on Route 16 between McGalloway and Lincoln Plantation. The cell service and radio service is poor, to say the least. So we put in a grant for a new radio tower along Route 16, which has power and network running the whole length of 16. Location was not determined, but the grant was not shovel ready. So, and that's one of the reasons we were denied. So big red letters, they said declined. Hurt the ego a little bit, but anyways, we learned a lot from the grant process, and we asked for $870,000 and a 20% match from the county. We are able to apply again in the fall, and we're going to be shovel ready the next time we apply. But this grant was well accepted. They have a lot of grants that were brought in, and they put it down to 10. That they recognize that we're gonna go to final. This was just a pre-application. So there was another grant was due on April 17th that we would have been ready for, but. So it was declined, but we did go make the effort, and I think they said it was very well written, well done. It's just, we need more information on how it fits Maine's 26, 29 economic development, what it will respond to there. And they really don't sponsor telecommunications so much, but we need to show the benefits. So we're prepared to do that and be shovel ready for those when we apply in fall. So this is more informational, and no vote or anything is needed, so.
And this Northern Borders grant is state, not federal.
This,
It's clearinghouse through the state. It is federally funded money, but it clearinghouses through the state. And we made some really good contacts and some really good inroads with some people that deal and administrate this grant year after year. They knew exactly where we're coming from. They liked what we had to say. However, we were heavy focused on the public safety, law enforcement side of it, when we should have been heavier on the economic development, which can kind of go hand in hand. You have to have public safety in order that you have more people moving into an area. So we are definitely recharged, refocused on that. And they overly encouraged us to reapply for this grant in the fall. And if we could fine tune it a little bit, they said there shouldn't be any problem with this.
Yeah, it's
Just
really
kidding.
good. Thank you both for working on that. It would be really beneficial. All right, you have 5 minutes. Tell me that leaves us our weekend.
so Article 10 is I've prepared a bid proposals to submit for cemeteries, fencing at cemeteries and the UTs. And it includes Hunts Corner Cemetery, some fencing issues, the gates are misaligned and so forth. So I'd like to put out the bid, some fencing, removing the gates and straightening the fence at Hunts Corner Cemetery. York Cemetery, installing a fence, no gates. It's wide open now, right adjacent to a snowmobile trail. So to preserve the integrity of the cemetery, I think we ought to protect it. Mason Cemetery, cedar fence, which is coming down. It's rotted. It's a cedar fence. We just want to replace it in kind with the same thing based on feedback from the community. Riley Cemetery, wood plank, painted white, rotted, needs to be replaced. It's very remote on Riley. Sunday River Road in Riley Township. No new burials ever happened. I'm proposing a set of white, putting plastic material that's low maintenance, so it will last for quite some time. So, and the fifth one, Mason's, maybe there's only
We have 4 on the list, yeah.
4.
Yeah.
So I just want the okay to put a bid out. I separate them by cemetery. So the money, if the numbers come in too high, I can eliminate one and postpone it till next year. So every year I've been trying to do a little bit in each cemetery to improve. Last year was raising stones, leveling them, cementing them back together or whatever. And one year was filling some of the dips where old pine boxes had caved in and so forth. So our cemeteries are looking better and better every day. So every year. Slow spend, but progress.
Yeah, and it generally, I mean, when you have cemeteries looking kept up, then it just generally adds to the feeling that people are caring about the area, so I think that's important. Good, okay, so we need a motion on this.
I move that we approve to have Tony put out to bid the cemetery maintenance and the UTs.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Tony? The things, and so we'll just come back to the Albany Township discussion when, so that would probably be at 12:30, because I'm sure Tamara's planning on that, timing.
Thank you for everything.
Yep, thank you. All right, we have 3 minutes to go to, before we start the contract discussion for Bethel, and I feel that we should give it that time because there may be people joining online. So I think that we probably should wait those 3 minutes.
James, administrator.
I usually, you know, a little bit. I think we can, it's 9:29, so I think we can get started with the next agenda item, which is the town of Bethel for the contract discussions on. And we have the town manager and select board members. So I think let's start by having you all introduce yourselves and then, and then whoever wants to speak. Who wants to start? Sorry, what's your first name?
Sharon Jackson, town manager. Greg Christopher. Sarah Southam.
Andrew Whitney.
All right, whoever wants to start.
Thank you. Thank you for meeting with us today, commissioners and county administrator. The 2026 calendar year budget for Bethel Patrol Services is $673,814, which includes $168,446 per deputy. That is included for July 2026 through December 2026. I have prepared a copy that I've provided to Zane, so you can each have them. I'm reading. We're asking you to consider maintaining the $168,446 per deputy charge instead of the $171,488 per deputy charge for July through December of 2026, because that is the amount you budgeted for the county budget. We're also asking that you provide a line item budget 176,486 per deputy charge we received from Oxford County for the 6 month beginning January 2027 through June 30, 2027. This will help explain what we are paying for and the costs that are specific to Bethel. Specific to the agreement to law enforcement services, we have compared and reviewed the terms of the original and revised agreements. There are several articles with changed and or new terms that we would like to request to be clarified and some articles removed. Two specific concerns are within Article 4, office space, to be removed completely, and Article 5, fonts, removing 5.4, and changes made to 5.1 through 5.6, including some changes in other articles. This is because there are the ones that we're looking at were not included in the first agreement that we had. We have concerns when the deputies assigned to Bethel are called to other areas to respond to calls because they are closer. This increases the call time for Bethel if deputies outside of Bethel then need to respond to a call in Bethel. We recommend periodic reporting to show how often this occurs and the time involved for each of the calls outside Bethel. We are requesting information to compare what our coverage would be to have 3 and 4 deputies assigned to Bethel. We believe the original agreement for law enforcement services signed in 2019 is still in effect until we can agree to a new agreement that we mutually agree to so we can have a good working partnership. To do this, we need to have input in the revised agreement. We would ask you to agree to have Sharon submit our draft with changes to the agreement you revised to Zane to present to you for your consideration and future recommendations as may be needed by both Bethel and the county. Due to busy work schedules for all involved parties, this would be an opportunity for all of us to have input in having an agreement that we can work with. Our full board will discuss this at their May 6th meeting. We recommend continuing working under the terms of the original agreement until our full board meets on May 6th, when we can determine a time to have our draft sent to you, to Sharon and Zane. What I'm hoping that this will accomplish is that we can all, through negotiations back and forth with commissioners and the select board, come to an agreement on an agreement all can work with, so that we're not continuing to come back and forth and look at, at the contract again until the time of expiration. And I believe that we can do this if we are involved in revising this agreement together.
Madam Chair, I can address number 2. It'll be actually really simple. Sharon, just to address number 2 on there is that you have it. If you have the other Excel sheet, it's just 2 pages, and I've had myself fallen victim to this. So it's just down at the bottom, and I'll be glad to show you how to open it. We had page 1, which was the 171, and then page 2 down at the bottom was the breakdown for the 176. And that was due to pay increases at the through the CBA, the contract with the deputies. Was the only increase that we had included in those 2 lines, and that was the reason for that change. And again, I'd be glad to go over that Excel spreadsheet with you because they're tricky, and I know how that just not clicking that bottom tab won't get you there, but I'll show you how to do that.
Okay.
Beth, do you have some comments that you might want to make to this? I think that one thing I just wanted to have to know, and I'm not sure, do you know when, like this contract that we sent you, you've had in your possession a while, I think. Do you know when we've sent a new contract?
It's been at least 6 months, I think. I'm thinking November, anyway.
Do you want to comment here, Beth? I mean, so we obviously went through the costs because of, Bethel's concerns. I don't know, when I started as a commissioner, there were concerns about the contract and the costs. And so at that time, we undertook a major study of all law enforcement costs here at the county. And not just internally, but, had an external, department, an external, auditor basically look at our records and come up and help break down for us the costs that we have for law enforcement. And created as fair, accounting as possible for Bethel and for the rest of the towns, of course, to make sure that we are passing on the costs, but no more than the costs, and doing that in a way that's as transparent as it can be as well. And obviously budgets are our best estimate on where costs are going to go. And seems mostly that we spend more than we budget year after year. But we do try to, pay Peter, steal from Peter to pay Paul and that kind of stuff. But so these costs are our best estimate, but it is a good faith estimate on this. So, as far as like changing the cost, they're there, like they're literally laid out. And it would be unfair for us to say, you're not going to charge the full cost of what these deputies are. And as far as looking at the contract, I guess, happy always to see your, to see what you want to have changed. But again, realizing that it isn't just a contract for Bethel, it's going to be a contract that we make fair for every other town that wants to do the services. And they will have to be worth. Like, we can't have a special contract with Bethel and a special contract with New Mexico. I don't believe, because then it's favoritism within the county, and this is not, we're not trying to negotiate, we're trying to just fairly pass on the costs. I feel like negotiation is something when someone has a stake in the game for, like, they're making money and maybe they're gonna reduce how much they're profiting. But this is definitely not our arrangement. Like, we don't want to profit at all. We just simply need to make sure we're being. So with that, with that again, which I know I said before, but this is really for us all. And then, so I don't know if you have any further comments you want to add on that'd be helpful.
Sure, I'll just echo a little bit of what's been said now. So if you don't know me, I'm Beth Calhoun, I'm the county treasurer, as Beth has shared. No, I feel like we have a similar conversation every year. And again, we've tried very hard, as Lisa said, to be responsive to the concerns about being transparent about the costs and itemizing the costs. And I would just echo what Zane said, I'm pretty sure we did send the itemization when we sent the new amount. So, again, we're not trying to hold anything back. We're more than happy to share our calculations. As Lisa said, budgeting is everybody's best efforts at, anticipating costs and revenues. But I think also, as we all know, that is never exactly what happens at the end of the year. And while we certainly hear you about, calculations you've done based on what our budget is, we never have a conversation at the end of the year where you come in and say, we've calculated and we see your budget to actual costs, and we would like to true up and offer you more money because you went over budget in these areas. So the county certainly assumes some risk on that. But, again, the budget is the best method we all have as municipalities of anticipating, what things are going to look like. But it is not 100% prediction. And when we offered our new number to you, that was based on knowledge we had as to how the negotiations were going with the patrol deputies and what their new contract was going to look like. So again, we took the best and the most recent information into account in calculating that number again, as our best, faith effort to bring in the true cost of that. So, no, and again, as Lisa said, I mean, this is not, from a financial perspective, which is my perspective, this is not the best arrangement for the county because again, we assume the risk of the costs and the cost overages. As far as the contract points, again, we spent a lot of time. This is not something we just, threw together. We did a lot of back and forth with our attorney, our outside attorney. Again, that's a legal line item we incurred, again, to make sure that we were coming up with the best terms of the contract. And again, I think I would echo Lisa's sentiments, which certainly receptive to hearing about that. But I also know that we sent that contract off some time ago. So, but, and then, I don't want to debate contract law as far as, what's controlling right now, but, from a financial perspective, and also with having a legal background, I'm not super comfortable with us continuing to operate without a contract. I mean, we've offered you a price and you're paying the price. So in my mind, we have an unwritten contract as far as the price and the services goes. But again, we have a lot of risk here. And if we don't have a signed contract, I'm not comfortable continuing to operate in that manner.
Chair, if I just could for just a minute.
Yes.
It is something that we do experience costs above and beyond what we budget for. And some of the budgeting items, just to speak directly to you about a few of those budgeting items, is that we still are in the middle of a contract negotiation with our deputies. We figured this contract increase on 4.5% pay increase to all of our deputies for year one, and for year two, the same. We are currently at a negotiation with them where the beginning is 6.5 followed by 6. So we are already with this number lower than technically we really should be, but we're not going to adjust that until we have a formalized agreement. The other thing that we have been hit with that we haven't passed on to you is that we received a 17.8% risk pool money. So our insurance went up over the cost that we budgeted for in the calendar year budget. So when you're looking at our 2026 budget, we budgeted $30,000 less than it actually cost us just for the insurance. Now, that's not all your part, and it is a slight part of that, but those are, again, risks that we, as Beth said, as risks that we take, but we try to minimize, number one, the cost to you folks, but also the cost that we're passing on to the other counties, the other towns in the counties. So that is something that we always try. I do think that there may be some room to talk in the agreement under paragraph 1. Again, one of those things, the office space was something that we took direct information from our attorney. Our attorney basically said, what you're doing right now is not legal. So you need to change it before you sign a new contract. So we would be open to other legal ideas if you folks had those, or your attorney said something different. I would certainly be willing to look at that if the commissioners were giving permission. But again, I just wanted to assure you that from my perspective, we're trying to not sell you anything. We're trying to provide you a service as fair and equitable as we can.
Thank you to Beth and to Zane for providing both the explanations.
Yeah. And I mean, I do want to just touch on because legally I am concerned on number 5, where you say, you recommend continue working with the terms of our original agreement. I have not read that agreement, but I don't want to leave this meeting thinking that we are working under the terms of that original agreement, because at least none of us on the county feel that we are. And so I don't want to leave, nobody has signed that in a very long time. That is certainly not the agreement that we currently have with Bethel, and so I don't want to have any misunderstanding there that because you've put this here, I don't want to remain silent and then have it be somehow mistaken that we're working under those terms, because that's not an agreement I even read. So certainly I'm not saying that we agree to that, or that we currently under that. But yeah, happy to look at the other suggestions, but we do need to, on our end, we do need to have a contract signed. We do need to come to an agreement, and then it's more than just, I mean, obviously we want to partner with you. I personally feel like it's super important for that as well. To have this, but also we have, deputies who we've hired, and their livelihoods are part of this conversation as well. And so having a signed agreement is a protection for their jobs as well, which I think is important that we have that kind of surety there. The other thing I wanted to touch on and was hoping the sheriff would mention, I mean, when Dixfield had a contract, I agree with the concern about, are your deputies in your town? Aren't they, or where are they? And I just wanted the sheriff to maybe comment on that, because that was number 2 in there.
As far as how many times they're out of the town, it varies, but with the language of the contract, we do have that mutual aid portion of it, so they should be only responding with what's considered to be mutual aid.
Do you give, or do you, or are you able to do any kind of report on, as far as like where the deputies are, and that, some sort of overview for them?
Do you speak on the monthly reports and the weekly at all, or?
We do provide the monthlies, and I know Bethel gets them, and I speak to Sharon all the time about them, but I think we can narrow down some of those numbers for them. It's difficult to speculate. There's a lot of times as well where there are more deputies in Bethel than just the one. Also goes both ways. So I think that would be a difficult thing to track down, because oftentimes it's not specific to just calls. But certainly I think we could
Certainly
come up with some sort of stats.
Yeah, speak with Sharon or the board and more specific offline than in the meeting. And there's a variety of different reports we can look at for sure.
And then also, if you wanted to decrease the number of deputies, I know that, you can discuss that with the sheriff as well. And the calculation is there pretty easily as far as like what that looks like for a cost, so that it's just a matter of coverage.
Yes, that number, the 168, the 171, the 176, those numbers are consistent. So if you were to remove one deputy, that would remove that cost. If you remove 2, it would remove double that cost. If you were to add an extra person, it would add that person in there. So it could go both ways. I know that obviously we'll be underneath a time crunch here to get something May 6th. That's a little over 2 weeks away. But we can certainly do something to follow up with this.
So I think your proposal here was that you were going to bring something to us after May 6th. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and that's fine. It's just, yeah, that's fine. And so do either one of you have something? Commissioner Miller, George Harden, okay.
The only thing I was gonna add, sheriff's already taken care of, was your answer to their question with number 2, as far as being able to break it down. How many times the Bethel deputy has to go to Gilly because it's a crack, stand right to a responding deputy, forget that. But it sounds like you can handle that, so. That's all I had.
Is it good just to ask if any of the board members follow up?
Yes.
How many other towns out there that do have the 24/7 or have the extra contract?
So the only other town that we, with the sheriff's office covering, or other towns that have police departments?
For the sheriff's department?
So currently no other one. We have an agreement that we're working on with the town of Mexico, the same contract that you have, and that's been in the works. A tentative agreement they've requested the 4th deputy, but the commissioner decided not to add that position until this a formal contract is signed. We're working under an MOU.
Yeah, kind of back to the budget piece. I think that part of the frustration, at least from a Bethel taxpayer, and it's twofold. One is we tend to forget Bethel also pays regular county taxes like everyone else does. But as far as the budgeting, it's the first 6 months that really, to me, don't seem right to have that price change with the county budgeting, because the county budget and the town budget's offset by 6 months. County budget is, I believe, yearly, so it's December or January 1st or whatever. So to me, our budget's coming in, when we're looking at something in June, the increase, we shouldn't be paying an increase until December 31st or January 1st or whatever. And to me, I guess if the county had to increase it exponentially to make up for the last 6 months, then I guess that's their prerogative. But it doesn't seem right for us to change in the middle of your budget, because you guys gave us the numbers based on the county budget. So that's, I think, where the frustration, I feel like we're overpaying the first 6 months. Now, maybe we're not, because maybe the county didn't budget properly for the last year. I mean, that happens. It's just part of it. But I think it will look cleaner and be easier to explain, seeing this number, this 168 carry in through the first 6 months. And then if you need to up it for the second 6 months, that to me, I guess, makes sense. But I also want to go back to that we also, pay regular county taxes too. Lisa, when you mentioned trying to do everything the same and treat all the towns the same, I understand that, and for the most part, that's probably the right way to do it. But one thing that is different about Bethel than some of the other towns, like say Mexico, or towns down here, is we don't have mutual aid nearby. Our mutual aid, the only way our mutual aid really goes two ways is in the fire service, because there's fire departments all around us. Our rescue service and our law enforcement, there is no nearby mutual aid. Rumford would be the closest. And even though Rumford abuts Bethel, it's still 30 minutes from one village to the next. Versus Mexico, which Mexico's mutual aid is Rumford. Rumford's right there. They used to have Dixville, they don't anymore. But down here, you've got Harris, Oxford, all pretty close together. So that's kind of where Bethel, and we deal with this with other things. We're a little isolated, and we're kind of the service center, so we pick up a lot of the costs that come on. So I just wanted to mention that, and we also pay the regular county taxes too. So we don't necessarily, I'm sure that the zone deputy comes in for backup and stuff, but we don't necessarily use the zone deputy the same way that other towns do, because we're paying for that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and, honestly, Rumford is somewhat similar in being sort of that hub that ends up creating benefit for the towns around them. They just do, right? And, I don't, as we've talked that through, and the fact that obviously there's a benefit to your town, your nearby towns, or Bethel, to have this contract, there absolutely is. But there's no way for us on the county level to parse that out, right? And because then, Rumford also pays county taxes, and they pay a lot for their law enforcement, right? All of the towns that have their own PDs are paying a ton of money for their own PD, and they're paying county tax the same as Bethel. And there's really no way even for us legally to parse this out any differently. Like there are statutes around how we can divvy out our taxes and it's done this way. So I agree there's value that Bethel is offering to the surrounding communities, but that only goes so far to your surrounding communities. It doesn't go to the whole county, and that's what we're responsible for here, is trying to parse costs out across the whole county evenly. So we do understand that you pay county taxes, same as Rumford and Norway and Austria that have their own PDs. They do as well, pay their share of county taxes, which does support the sheriff's office, which does give them mutual aid. But like you said, is their mutual aid really as necessary because they have each other or whatever? Maybe not. So there are some parts of this that we can't get exactly right. And as far as just sending out the amount, I think I'm gonna reiterate a little bit what Zane said, but that was why we tried to get you a number before your town meeting. We got you a number March first. That was our agreement with you because we needed to get you a number for your accounting purposes, right? And for your budgeting purposes. And as Zane pointed out, the first number we gave you, we actually will pay more during that first time than what we've given you for number. Because, you know, we'll end up paying back pay probably for our, increase for our deputies that we're not passing on until like the 6-month mark to that. So, so anyway, so we got that number to you for that reason, and it is, like, we are going to change our year. It's for when our budget year, we're not gonna change that because it would be like very costly and very difficult. So it does cause a problem, I understand, for towns to have us be on this different schedule, but it's just something that we're trying to work through as best we can. And in years forward, now that we have a contract that is for 3 years, this won't be a problem. We will be able to, because the biggest expense obviously is the people, right? Yes, other costs will go up. We might have to increase the line for vehicles or other expenses based on actual costs. But they're not such a big hit. Like really what changes the cost of our contract the most is how much we're paying the deputies. So going forward, until we end up in this moment again where we don't have a contract and yet we need to, you know, with our deputy, but we need to have a contract for patrol, we may have that moment again where things are a little bit dicey, but again, we absolutely understand the need to plan, trying to do our best to get those numbers to you and make it work for you and for us, you know, for the county as a whole. So I think that addressed your 3 points. So, all right, anything else? Yeah.
Just a quick one. I don't know who can answer this, but is there any possibility of having a regional contract where it includes all the other towns around us that are already getting the services from us?
I think,
If the commissioners would be more on that.
yeah, I mean, if you wanted to go to your surrounding towns, and say to them, hey, do you want to join with us in creating a contract and tell them you're getting benefit off the taxpayers of Bethel because we have this contract. It costs a lot of money to have patrol, yet you have now patrol in your area because of our tax money going to this. You know, you could go to them and see if you want to do that, but I would say on your end, see if you want to create some kind of cooperative agreement, and then if you want to bring that to us, happy to entertain what that might look like, but it would be you and them coming to us, not us trying to go to them and say, hey, you know, would you please do this?
And so the money part of it would be your responsibility to split it between the other towns. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know how that kind of contract would look, but I think if you had towns that wanted to join in and create sort of a larger area where you are having that 24-hour coverage, but it's maybe a contract between 3 towns versus 1, I think there's something that's doable there. You know? But yeah, I would go to them and see if they have interest, 'cause I think it's a good solution.
Thank you very much for.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We appreciate you coming in, and I've said before, but I agree that, you know, digging into these numbers was the right thing to do. I think digging in, making sure that we're really accounting for costs as exactly as we can to be fair in everything we're doing so that the taxpayers of Bethel or Mexico or whoever else know what's in front of them, but then so does also the other towns know that we're being fair to them as well. So I appreciate the diligence that, you know, the questions from Bethel have really forced on the county to kind of dig in. I think it's beneficial, and then hopefully we can get a contract, because I, you know, concur with Beth that we should be working under a contract. That is the only fair way for the county to move forward and take on that risk on behalf of the rest of the county. So hopefully we can do that. Let's aim to maybe try to get that for April, but that we have a. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are right on time. Our department had meetings. Our boss, I think, we're gonna- Yes, they will. What was that now? It's-
That's a month and then using it. I got brother that's going to Nazareth. You better do that. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I call
Right.
Tammy, I need to see you.
Sorry, I overshot.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, close to this orange hat here. I think you should do it.
Yeah. This is usually a contract.
Yeah, I know. Good progress.
You did some emailing though, but, yeah. Good.
Yes, I won't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Good morning. I guess we haven't met since the last time, since our sheriff's office convention. We had the 50th annual convention of the Maine Sheriff's Association. Was held at Sunday River. We had great attendance, all 16 counties. We're really able to showcase our county. The commissioners that were able to attend, we appreciate it.
I apologize. I had a family emergency, so I had to be on stage.
I understand completely, but I think that the commissioners were probably pretty impressed with our honor guard, and we represented the sheriff's office in Oxford County very well. I heard it went so well that the county commissioners had talked about having a convention there this year, so
Have to follow you.
have to follow, but we'll be more than happy to help out with passing on some do's and don'ts or some pluses and minuses and things like that. So that went very well. The jail's full. Always, and I guess I'll leave the chief to the.
That was a major undoing, of the conference itself. It sidetracked us quite almost all the employees, so. But it went well. We're back on track now, getting some more, training. We've got the firearms coming up. We've got some specialty training. We've got some grant writing. I should get some, results back with some of the applications that we put out, so fingers crossed. But just getting back into the things and pushing everybody forward.
Who writes the grants in your department? You did? Yeah. Don't look at your name.
But I think, there was, work with, saying, Lindsay's office, not much to make of me, but, it's like a group effort, but it is an undoing, and it's almost like a crapshoot, 50-50, you get it, you qualify for it, and then some of it is the reimbursed funding, so we gotta be careful, with that, the money's going out, coming in.
Something to add or?
Patrol's busy. The detectives are busy. Just a quick shout out to the troops for continuing to do a really excellent job handling the calls throughout the county. As usual, yeah, 68, I think total. 44 in the building upstairs. We were able to send a couple officers up to the training at Sheriff's Conference. Right, trying to save some money where we can, but
Right, Jen.
Yeah, right. Nothing really in the report. We're busy. Everybody's busy, yes. Yeah, fucking long. Really good.
Lindsay, you're back. You want to do-
Yeah, so we are very excited to have Darren starting as our deputy finance director in May. So he'll be coming on first week in May. He's already sort of been over a few times to do some training, which he's really getting up to speed quickly. So he'll really be able to jump right in. When Darren starts, there'll be about a week where Tim overlaps with him to train, but then we'll be transitioning out after he assumes the full-time role. So we're very excited to have him coming aboard. Also, we'll be running our first warrant out of Ramp today. Everybody is up and running on Ramp, doing your approvals. So thank you all for getting up to speed with that. And if you run into sort of any issues with the system, just don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, the main thing today that we'll be bringing to you during the treasurer's portion is we have 2 proposals on a TAN to discuss. So that's the main thing, really getting the TAN in place. And Lindsay will go over the specifics of our budget to actuals, but.
Very good. Scoot house over to you. Good morning. Good morning.
How do you?
Just, I like the plans.
Yes.
So I'm super excited for Lindsay to be able to inherit Darren. But at the same time, we're working on our end to just really try to keep things at status quo and keep our customer service levels high. Please remember that we do have one person who's only 8 months in, we have one person who's a year and a half in, and then the new person will be fresh. So I'm hoping that the public, as well as everybody else who deals with us, will just be patient with us while we transition. I want to speak to the quality of what Darren provides the county, because he's only been with us a little over 3 years, and the level of customer service that he provides, the level of knowledge and insight that he provides is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that he has been able to not only help finance, but continue to do his job and create some job aids that have been super helpful on our side, as well as helpful through the Maine Registers of Deeds Association. He's been able to lead through the legislative committee for them as well, to be able to add insight. So he is really a top-notch employee. So I appreciate you seeing and recognizing what he's able to offer us, and keep him with us. The other piece that I wanted to talk about is the Registers Association came together last Friday to talk about deed fraud, the commission that the state approved this past year. And of course, we're at a standstill again because there are several people on the state side that don't feel as though deed fraud is a statewide issue. And we have to continue to bring that awareness forward. So one of those pieces that we were hoping to talk to the Maine County Commissioners Association about for convention in September is to have kind of a discussion board amongst, realtors, registers, commissioners, property owners, attorneys and title companies to be able to just have that discussion and not point fingers, but to be able to come up with some solutions on how we can better be aware and try to prevent what we have going on. Fortunately, we've only seen one issue in Oxford County that really fizzled out very quickly. So we're grateful in that because usually we know our neighbors, and if someone's deed comes across and I know he hasn't talked about selling his property, I'm not going to record it. So that's a benefit that we do have. Another piece of information that I just wanted to share is that Commissioner Cushing did ask the registers to start tracking mansion tax and real estate transfer tax due to a rewrite of Title 30A, which does govern municipal and county government. So I wanted to make sure that I shared with each of you currently where we are with transfer tax and mansion tax. So you'll notice that we've already paid to the state over $653,000 this year, and that's in less than 4 months. So this is just an added tool when it comes to defending county budget and county funds that we collect. And if you want to learn any more about that, I'd be happy to sit down. That's all.
Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, so the airport, we completed a fuel master upgrade. That's the fuel system for selling fuel to pilots. So that went well. Been doing double checks with Lindsay, make sure the credit cards are going through correctly, and we're getting the monies that are being spent. We've had a few little glitches, but nothing major, so that project's complete. And we continue with the master plan update. We have the estimate for Hoyland Tanner on the scope of the work for the master plan, and we're reviewing that to submit, hopefully by the end of the week, back to Hoyland Tanner and to the FAA, get that approved, and then submit for the grant on May 1st. So good progress being made there. As far as the UT, we talked about Wardwell Bridge, getting the engineering completed up front, so we're shovel ready. Thank you for that this morning. And putting out the bids for cemeteries, 4 cemeteries in Albany Township, Mason Township, and Riley, correcting some of the fencing that's deteriorated over time. So just another improvement to cemeteries that we've been working on every year. So and then this week is National Work Zone Awareness Week. I believe Nicole sent out notice this morning. There's a pledge to put out that I'd like you to sign and submit that. Go to the DOT, just showing Oxford County's commitment to work safe. And it's all about the 2 workers who died last year on the highway on the main turnpike. So there's a few things going on. Wednesday is Go Orange Day. So if you have a vest, please wear it. Thursday there's going to be a social media push, and Friday a small moment of silence for those workers that passed away, all workers that passed away on the highway from incidents like happened last year. So there's a lot of information going on. I've asked Jeff if he could do a moment on the radio, a call out on Friday, and he's considering that right now. Just see what the implications and to keep it from spreading everybody wanting a call out. So this is very important to me, but I know Jeff has a job to do as well. So that's about it right now. Spring cleanup projects are getting aligned, and bid for the paving will go out today as well. So paving that you requested a couple of meetings ago, paving bids. So that's it.
Thank you, Tony. Before we move on, Sherry, just a quick question on this. How often do you plan to update this?
I will update that monthly for you if you prefer and report here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I need it monthly, but I do maybe quarterly or something. I think it is good information, so I just wanted to. Yeah.
Well, let me continue to stay busy. Last week was National Emergency Telecommunicator Week. The staff appreciated your support. A great thing for them. We still continue to have issues with the bathroom, and I believe we'll be addressing those later. But I just wanted to bring that up at this meeting, and otherwise that we're just moving onward and upward. Oh, there is one other thing. Our tower system is completely online now. All the towers are up and running, and we'll be discussing that later today too. So
Really, really good news. Big project.
very big.
All right, Lisa.
We are officially down in ADA. She will be out for a few months. Actually, each office in District 3 is down ADA, so we're all helping each other, getting ready for trial month, see how that'll go. And then in June, we'll be down 2 ADAs. Dick will be retiring. We're gonna
You
be
seemed
busy.
quite happy about that as I walked in with it this morning.
I'm sorry.
You seem very happy about that.
Well, I keep trying to tell him he needs 1 more year, but he's telling me no.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard, being down two is gonna be really difficult.
Right. We don't even have a candidate yet for Dick's replacement.
Morning. We just completed an ICS 300 class, which is the Intermediate Incident Command System for Expanding Incidences. We had 13 students. We spread the class out over 5 different days, as it's a lengthy class. And I attended the Sheriff's Conference and was very happy with the speakers that I went up to see. It just cemented information that I already know, and for me to take back to the schools and give a little more push on some things. So it's good.
So, we've been doing bi-weekly meetings of the Inland Flooding and Drought Action and Monitoring Project, which is the GMRI inland flooding data collection tool. Pushing hard on the public outreach and the education piece. Lots of different groups that are involved in getting that out there, which I'm so thankful for. There are several conferences over the next month that information about that will be at, and they did the drinking water conference last month. So, and I'm going to be working with one of the instructors at Telstar, the environmental piece, to talk with their kids about working with this too. We're working pre-event planning with the Norway Maine Art Festival and Maine CDC. Get some kind of plan together for them to look at expanding to 2 days in 2027. There's still no movement on Homeland Security Grant 2025, and there's still no information on Homeland Security Grants 2026. But the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant that was forced to be opened by Judith Lash, and in February, we have several communities that are engaging with that in hopes of receiving some of this funding, and not sure if it's the last year of the funding or not. So everybody's going all in. And then we have now scheduled and will begin our threat and hazard identification and risk assessment and stakeholder preparedness review with intro sessions in June and workshops in July and August. Just presented the plans for local EMAs last week, and this is just an upgraded and expanded version of the hazard vulnerability analysis that we've done for the last 20 years. So it's more in depth, more informational, more down in the weeds, and we'll produce a plan that will be useful for everybody to justify needs.
This last week, so thank you for your patience as I catch up on everything. If you have something urgent, feel free to resend it to me so it goes to the top of my inbox, but I should be caught by tomorrow. Wellness Works will have a bunch of buzz announcements coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that, and it's fun.
That's everything.
Some of it's gonna be about praise today. Tony, I'll start with Tony. Great meeting at the airport with all the regional managers there. It was I got did that with Tony, and it was great work. Tony is also getting ready to receive an award from AvCog on the 29th for all of his work with Albany Township. And we're going to be taking some members down there to support him. I want to thank Sherry, who disappeared, and James included.
They just
Sherry, I want to thank you for making sure that I made it to Flag Day. We went up to Flag Day. Jeff also went up with us to Flag Day at the Capitol. Although there wasn't a lot of people that saw us there, the people that did see us there I felt like it was good. We were actually, I think, the strongest group there from the counties. I think others might have had two. We had the three of us. So I think that was pretty impressive. So I want to thank you for that. The sheriff attended a little bit of the MSA conference, but I will tell you from what I attended, that was very, very well done. I was very impressed. The professionalism of our deputies and the sheriff's command staff up there was to be admired. I thought it was a job well done. So congratulations on that, and we will look forward to picking your brains about some do's and don'ts as we go into the MCCA conference up there. I wanted to share with you that IT, who's not here today, is doing a fantastic job with job interviews, and we may have found a needle in the haystack. So we're very hopeful about that. And Jeff, I just wanted to mention him. They just finished Dispatchers Appreciation Week, and I know that he went far and above the normal things this week in order to make them feel valued as dispatchers. And they really appreciated that. And I saw that they had a meeting where he provided dinner for them at Market Square, but also doubled as their meeting of the month. And I thought that was really well done. They handed out some awards and so forth. And also with our dispatchers, we have several dispatchers looking to receive awards at the NENA conference. And he has submitted me all the paperwork for them to attend that, which has been a heavy lift. So I really appreciate Jeff on that. Tony, as he mentioned, the main DOT thing, very supportive of that, and want to make sure that we pay close attention to that on Friday with a moment of silence for those workers and so forth. And other than that, we've just been busy, really, really busy in this office. So we've been a lot of moving parts, and you probably see that in my administrator's report. It's very lengthy. We've been very, very busy. So I thank everybody for their help and keeping the lid on it. We're doing a good job. Thank you all.
Okay, I don't want to go into a lot of the history on jail operations fund funding, but I think it's safe to say that during the Mills administration, her first biennial budget submitted in the spring of 2019 was targeted to do 20% reimbursement to the jail fund based on the prior year total cost. That ended up being funded for that biennium at 18.5 million in the general fund operations budget. When she came in with her second budget in the spring of 21, after COVID, she asked for the baseline to be increased to 20.4 million, which it was. That was before we got any money for either medication-assisted treatment or any supplement to increase it. Then she came in with her third budget in the spring of 2013. And in that budget, she requested 20.4 million in the first year, which would have been fiscal 24. And we ended up getting a one-time 4 million for medication assisted treatment in fiscal 25. We got that, we received it, and we hoped that it would continue in the budget she submitted in the spring of 25. And she did. She asked for 20.4 million in the baseline and 4 million on top of that in each year of the biennium. Well, that legislative session started something brand new. They split the budget into a part one and a part two. So they took the part one to be 20.4 million for both the fiscal year 26, which we're about 10 weeks away from ending, and 20.4 in fiscal 27, which will start on July 1. And nothing for 4 million, because that was seen as a supplemental or part two or new and expanded service idea, which I thought was a little bit hokey. But anyway, they didn't do it initially, but last year they did fund an additional 4 million for fiscal 26 on a one-time basis, leaving the second year of the biennium going back to a baseline of 20.4. our financial team can, illustrate exactly what it's out here of that 4 million last fall, before we finished the calendar year and before we framed the budget for this calendar year. So we made an assumption back in the fall when the department heads came in with their budget, when we went to the budget advisory committee, and when we finalized it in December, that we expected we would get the equivalent of another 4 million in the fiscal year 26, which we're now soon to close. Then we have the benefit of some recommendations from the County Corrections Professional Standards Council, which we were part of in our lobbying effort a year ago and again this year. And they came in with recommendations not only to add the 4 million that didn't get funded last year for the start the fiscal year upcoming, and add 4 million to that, and then build a base at 28 or 30 million in the future. So we had a lot of support coming from the Professional Standards Council report. They submitted a budget request in the fall. The administration conveniently ignored it and didn't do anything in their supplemental budget, which was submitted back in January. So we will have to rely on the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee, which has been in our corner right along. And when they saw the report back from the council, they made a clear recommendation for another $8 million in the year upcoming to the Legislative Appropriations Committee. And that laid fallow for quite a while. And then we had the benefit of a new piece of legislation called LD 2232, which came from the Criminal Justice Committee. And that was a source of optimism right up until last Saturday night, because it requested in a very comprehensive way an additional $4 million for the current year, 8 million for next year, and a $30 million starting line for July 127 for the future biennium, the next administration, the next governor. We felt very happy with that recommendation. It came out of the Criminal Justice Committee with a 9-2 report. It got its acceptance on the floor initially, and then when we finally saw the supplemental budget get dealt with in the wee hours of the evening on the Tuesday, the 7th, Wednesday morning, the 8th of April, that did zero for county jails, nothing new, period. So the supplemental budget came out of committee, straight party line with zero new funding for jail operations. But we had that bill, that 2232 bill that had gotten good support early last week and Representative Blanchard was keeping me informed of that. The first go around at the full funding level, it got a 129-17 vote in the House and sailed through the Senate and ended up on the appropriations table, which had, an initial $4 million for the upcoming year and the 30 million baseline going forward, the next biennium. So that was left to the Appropriations Committee when we cleared this so-called special appropriations table, which when we left Bethel on Newbury on the evening of the 9th, the evening of the 9th, we figured we had County Day all scheduled in Augusta on the 10th. And as we left Newbury, we learned that the legislature was canceled the Friday session on the 10th. So there was no clear schedule of when they would start working on the appropriation table, but it finally became clear in the afternoon of the 10th, that they were going to meet on Friday evening. They said 6 o'clock, but 6 o'clock means 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the evening. So I didn't go to Augusta, but I was on my Zoom right up until 11 o'clock on Friday night and midnight on Saturday night. And in final on Saturday night, the Appropriations Committee removed 2232 from the appropriations table and said, in very clear terms, we're going to provide $4 million in one-time funding for the jail operations fund budget. And the source of that funding was quite unique, but it's not unheard of for dialing for dollars creativity when it was general life. They said, we're going to sneak $4 million of interest earnings on the budget stabilization fund, which up until June 30th, right now, has $1 billion in it in an interest earning account. And it's generating $4 million a month in interest earnings. So we're going to take one of those $4 million interest earnings under an emergency bill, and we're going to grab it before June 30th and put it into the jail operations fund. And in order to do that, we're going to do a little freak out money, I guess, and we're going to call it an FY26 appropriation. Now it's called an allocation because they took that interest money, no general fund money, interest, put it into another special revenue account and included it in FY26. That finally got passed in the wee hours of the 14th, last 2 weeks ago today. And the governor signed it into law on Thursday as an emergency bill because it ran through quickly. They were getting close to adjournment. So in the end product signed by the governor on Thursday of this week, there is an additional $4 million on top of the $4 million that we get paid last fall for the current fiscal year and zero for the next fiscal year and zero for outgoing or upcoming biennium. Your folks referred to it in the appropriate media summary as a Band-Aid. And I think that was a pretty good description because it's a one-time patch on all of the work that we have done. Once that patch gets removed, the soreness and the lack of healing is so evident going forward. We have nothing of legislative intent for the years starting in 10 weeks because the money is in the current year. So we're going to have to lobby all over again, and we may end up finding ourselves in somewhat of a more political stage with the upcoming elections in November to try to make a new governor, nominees, R&D, and unenrolled aware of this problem. This hasn't been dealt with, folks, and the new legislators need to know they only put a Band-Aid on the problem for 1 year, and they left us high and dry. So in a sense, Sheriff and Dana, we're getting 28 million literally for the current year and 20 million for next year. So it gives them a false impression that we got a new 4, which we got, but we're back to a baseline of 20 for the year starting in July 1. And the new administration needs to know that. So long story short, to the finance team and Zane, we need to know when that money will flow. But we being a calendar year, we can really assume that long before December 31, we will get the equivalent of our Oxford County share of $4 million, just like we did last fall. And actually, that's what we assumed when we built the budget. We assumed that we would get another $4 million for the current calendar year, and for our purposes, unless the cost of the jail operation go north in a hurry, we're in a similar position than we were last year. We will get some time, and Andre Cushing, the president, didn't understand that that was passed as an emergency bill, so he said we wouldn't be seeing any of that money until July or August. I think the council, the County Corrections Professional Standards Council, is meeting on Thursday. Zane's counterpart, Tim Curtis from Somerset County, is on that committee. I spent a lot of time with him yesterday, and I said, when do you think that $4 million that's technically in the current fiscal year will be distributed because they've got an emergency enactment. And it's signed by the governor as an emergency. He said, we'll make a recommendation on Thursday of this week. But I would assume, even though the money will technically be earmarked to go out before June 30th, it may not get out to us until after June 30th. But, so we're in a position, so just like we were a year ago, our budget seemed to assume another $4 million flow, and that's what we will get. But we'll start all over again when we start building the budget for Oxford County for 27. And so we're plugging in for next administration. It's a sad story, but if you look for some silver lining, we've done a credible job of convincing the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee and many of the media. There's a lady who writes, I'm not sure she's on right now, listening to this, but has covered a lot of Androscoggin and Oxford Franklin County and the sheriffs, and we have been talking about this regularly. I think we've made the case that we need to have an inflation-driven commitment in writing, not implied, but in writing for this fund going forward. It's a major issue for all county budgets. We being a county, Calhoun County, we can deal with it better than the fiscal year counties can because they're speculating into another calendar year when they build their budget. So I guess I will stop right there and say, Dana and Chris and Lindsay and Beth, money will flow comparable to what we got in the fall of 25. And we will look like another calendar year where our budget is intact. But it's hokey. One time, that's right up front. It's not even general fund. It's coming out of interest earnings, call it other special revenue fund, and it has no language for the future. I guess we could call it a hollow victory, a Band-Aid alone, like a lot of what doing. And it's frustrating. Like I said, the only silver lining is we've got a lot of people on the Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee that really believe in what we were trying to do. And we had a good bill and a lot of their support. But when it came down to the appropriators, it was split right down party lines. And the role of the presiding officers and leadership, which I can't really even speculate who was the primary source of saying, don't give them anything for the future. But that's what they were saying. Don't give them anything for the future. But they did. You talk about legislative hypocrisy, no reflection on your life. You're doing your job. A lot of that occurs in Augusta after dark. There are several commitments in the supplemental budget that make major commitments in the future that are unfunded, but for jails, because jails are somewhere out there, not in Augusta. They made no such commitment. So they were set with a Band-Aid and more work to come. It took me too long. But that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a big topic of concern for sure. Also, Turner, all set. Okay, and I am all set as well. So I think that's a lot for us. Thank you all so much for being here and for updating us on your departments. I appreciate it.
What time did we get lost? We got systems.
But we are gonna move, as mentioned.
Why don't you just stay, because we have the best report, you might want to hear it, and then you guys could just ignore it.
We are gonna talk a little bit about the deputy. Okay, so we will move on to the treasurer's report, as we mentioned, we're swapping out, just for the sheriff's report, so we can get done before Beth leaves us for the day. So, all right, so I don't know which one of you wants to get started, but let's do it.
Do you want to start with Yeah, I think if you would like to start with the TAN, have a discussion of the TAN, and hopefully you have both of the proposals, that one there from Androscoggin Bay and one there from Norway Savings Bank.
And so you will have it all.
Always.
It's only a week.
I got it again. I had to say.
So, I think that the main difference to point out is that they're about percentage point difference on the interest rate they're offering. Androscoggin, as you know, is where we have our accounts. Norway Savings Bank, I will tell you, about, I would say about 4 years ago, when we went out to bid on the can, Norway Savings Bank came in with a similar proposal where it was significantly lower. With that, language where they would like us to consider, returning our deposits to them. So, this isn't, a surprise, to me to see that language in there. And in my opinion, it is an agreement to consider, not an obligation to the accounts on it, but, I think just looking at these in a pure numbers way, a whole percentage point lower is probably where we want to end up when we're, considering a $5 million can.
Just an idea.
Yep, nine.
Are you wanting us to vote on selecting them today then? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Motion we're selecting Norway Savings Bank offer for our dam.
I'll make that motion. I move that we accept the TAM proposal from Norway Savings Bank for $5 million at, I just saw 3.98%.
Okay, all those in favor? What's that?
So moving on to the budget versus actual discussion, so starting with the report that we have, the summary statement of operating revenue and expenditures. We're into the year, these are March. So we have a good idea of sort of where some things are headed. One thing I dug into this month is the wages in the sheriff's department. There were some position changes, there were some certain factors contributing to overages and some lines and being under in other lines, but I'll just talk through what I found. In the deputy line, we're 36,000 ahead of budget. There are a couple factors there. One is we do have one additional deputy position than we had budgeted for. This changes, there is a person who is going to be moved into or has already been moved into the detective line, Dennis Lowe. But that is occurring in April, so that's sort of like a future change. So as of the first quarter, we were one position more than we had budgeted for in the deputies. That's 18,000 of why we have a variance there. We also are 41,000 ahead in overtime that we had budgeted. I did do a look at deputy by deputy, if that would be helpful to you to see where people are at in terms of we spent by person. But I didn't provide that in the file because it was had personal information in it. So we are ahead there. We do have savings because there is a position for the Mexico deputy that has not been filled yet, but unfortunately, that position is also offset by lower revenue. So we do have an unfavorable variance in the sheriff's department revenue because we budgeted Mexico at 4 deputies. So those are sort of offsetting. And even with that unfilled position, we're 36 ahead. We are under in the detectives line by 40,000. And that's because of 2 vacancies in that line. through March. And that was, due to Justin Brown moving down to a deputy role. So as of April, Dennis Lowe is moving up into detectives. So we will only have one vacancy there. And also as of late March, and starting full-time in April, Cody Gray moving into a deputy role as well. So I do anticipate that we will have overages going forward with the rate that we're spending here. While they're offsetting right now, there's Cody Gray's position starting. And so there will be one less detective vacancy going forward. So we're going to start to see that overage being offset in the detectives line.
So overall, we're taking all of these numbers into consideration. The top line is we're 36,000 ahead of budget.
For deputies, but we're also 40,000 below budget in detectives. So right now, if you look at it, it's a wash, but the other thing to consider is we also have a hole in the revenue because of that Mexico position is not being billed to Mexico. So it's not really a wash. We should have enough savings to offset the fact that we haven't hired one deputy that's for that Mexico contract.
And then, can you help me understand the other thing here is that I think you said that once Cody Gray moves into position as a deputy, that then we will have one more deputy budgeted. Is that what you said?
So once I think that no, then we'll be right at the number we budgeted with Dennis Lowe moving into detective.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
We're also ahead in the RCC full-time staffing line. Overtime use has been really high in the RCC as well. There is savings in the part-time line though that are mostly offsetting that overage. They have not been using the part-time staff very much. The revenue shares department revenues behind by 57,000. Again, this is the Mexico contract. That is revenue that will not make up since we budgeted for the full year for Mexico to have 4 deputies. And it should be offset by savings, but currently that's not what we're seeing in the actual. So that's something we'll want to keep a very close eye on. Vehicles, we are over budget on vehicles. I'm less concerned about this one. There were upbiddings at the beginning of the year. We had calendarized the budget based on how we spent last year, which was purchasing vehicles in November. So we've just done some of that earlier with the upbidding from the vehicles that we purchased at the end of last year. We will be purchasing vehicles early this year through Enterprise, presumably as well, but we'll have a much better idea of that line once we have a finalized amount. Insurance for 14,000 over budget due to the risk pool policy being more than we had anticipated for the increase. Capital improvements. This one will be covered from the capital reserve. This is improvements for the airport related to our agency share of FAA work that was occurring. So Tony does have a reserve account. We move on to the entity to accept that. Areas where we're looking favorable are the reporting fees are ahead of budget, 11,000. Interest income is ahead by 48,000. IT personnel have savings due to the vacancy of the position that they're looking to hire through March. SRO officers, we have savings of 18K due to one of the SRO positions not being filled currently. And services are under budget by 323K. And again, it's the jail that's really driving that. with border prisoners and inmate medical. We don't have yet in this report that provides today March numbers for boarding reflected, but regardless, if it's consistent with the prior months, we still about 150,000 savings in that border prisoner line through the first quarter. So that's helpful to the Dale's budget. We are just keeping track of some of the overages we already know. We talked about this at our last treasurer's report, but the risk pool insurance, the probate staff, we could have around a 15,000 overage there. Jail funding, you can strike this as this is outdated information based on the report that Solomon provided today. We should be on target for what we budgeted for jail revenue, so that's good news. Other big risks obviously are with patrol contracts. Bethel, if Mexico continues with 3 deputies or, there's a lot of risk associated with those contracts. But hopefully we'll be able to, come to convince with them. And then, the overtime utilization has definitely exceeded the budget. I think for next budget cycle, we'll want to look really closely at how we budget for overtime, as it seems that is something where we always fail to budget appropriately to what we are spending. But we also, I think, will be doing more analysis, which and I can provide what I came up with to you all as well. To see if there is measures we can do to reduce overtime. But yeah, so I think there's it's going to be a challenging year budget wise. I'm very happy to hear Solomon's report on the jail funding that that's one less thing we have to worry about. The TAN. We got good bids on that, so that's one less thing to worry about. But we are going to be looking really closely at expenses this year and just trying to make sure we're really proactive on taking action.
So,
Question to Beth and Lindsay, and the sheriff. At some point, once we get into the summer, maybe after the 4th of July, would it be appropriate to try to do a separate comparison of budgeted sheriff's budget versus the enterprise activity? So we can see kind of how are we progressing as we get into the last half of the calendar year. Something that would show us, line by line, how we're doing. Maybe, Zane, you've got some thoughts probably in terms of when we would begin to see differences from what we assumed a year ago.
I think that would be very wise to do that. I thought that time would be very good in terms of planning for the next budget cycle as well, if we can really dig into that around July.
Yeah. You have to realize that in the sheriff's department specifically, the fall though is where we get hit the hardest with our overtime because we have significant amount of people using the vacation time for the hunting season and prepare for winter. So that's something to keep in mind there, Solomon, as well. But I do think July is a good time to try to get those factors in so that we can prepare for our budgets going forward.
Then you said specifically enterprise though, correct?
Yeah, I was kind of focusing in on that.
Yeah, so I have spoken, we've all spoken a little bit, but we're hoping that we're going to start seeing that with less maintenance costs. So it may take longer than, obviously it should impact by the end of the year, but I don't think it's going to show anything truly significant before we start the budget process, but maybe
before the 4th quarter of the year. So
I think we'll start seeing it. If we're spending less on maintenance for sure, then we'll start seeing it. But I really think with this program, we're going to see it year 2, year 3, year 4, for sure.
hello. do you want to go through any of these other reports, or they're just added to and go through?
Well, I mean, it's worth taking a look at the overtime report, just because, there are a few other departments we didn't call out, that are trending ahead of the budget. One is DA's office, and these amounts are going to be much smaller than the amounts of the overtime that you see in the RTC for the sheriff's department or the jail, but these DA's office, they are working care of amount of overtime. And then another thing that's not going up in this number is that there are people taking comp time, using the comp time, so they're not being paid out that overtime, but they're accruing it as PTO time they can use later. So that utilization has been happening in the DA's office as well. Another area is buildings and grounds. Again, these aren't huge dollar amounts, but one of the staff members in buildings and grounds reported quite a bit of overtime this quarter due to attending training sessions outside of work hours. RCC, I had quite a bit in RCC. So we're at 32% of their annual budget spent. And we're, a quarter of the way through the year. So we're just going to, I think once they have new positions that have just started, so that will not necessarily reduce their overall spend in personnel, but will reduce hopefully the overtime some people are working to accommodate for the vacant positions. So those are the main things. The jail is actually looking pretty on target. They're only 18% of their budget spent for the year. So that's a plus side. But overall, I think County we're just a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
Overall, spent 26% and 25% of the year.
Yeah, we're actually not, it's not exactly 25 because of the way we have like a 3 pay period month in May. So the first quarter only has 8 pay periods. But it's, so we're maybe like 3 or 4% ahead of what we should have spent. Yes, okay, 23% is what I expect based on another pay periods to expense, so we're 3%, but 3% translates to a lot of money when we have, our total overtime budget is for the whole county is it's almost $1 million. 978.
All right. That's everything then, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, anything else from you, Beth? No,
Unless you all have questions, I think we're good. We get out because we want to yield the floor to the.
She's on vacation.
She didn't have to wait till noon, so we can keep her another hour. All right, thank you. Very much.
Drive safe.
Okay, moving on, exactly on time. Oh, that's good. Sheriff's report.
I think we hit the hot spots. I think I just just thought of, was that some of our overtime got billed out yet, so some of the highway safety grants will be billed out and reimbursed that will offset some of the overtime.
We built it, yeah, I think we traveled.
As far as the updates go, I think we're doing most of our stuff as we move along today, but I certainly answer any questions you have. I think we have the mileage, report that we should.
I didn't get.
Oh.
If I may share for just a second, we had discussed and it will be coming is that eventually this mileage report is gonna have the vehicles for enterprise broken out of it versus the total number of vehicles. But we haven't, because of the MSA conference and a bunch of other things going on, haven't had the chance to do it yet, but we will be doing that probably for next commissioners meeting on having a list of the vehicles that are with enterprise and then having a separate list without. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I thought you already had the copy handed to you, so we'll make a quick copy and we'll get it to you, the mileage report.
So do we have vehicles already that we purchased through Enterprise?
No, we're hung up a little bit with, this pool, Malcolm and Anthony, are going back and forth with, language in the, for the insurance and making sure that it's appropriate. I do think, sometime yesterday, they settled it out, so the certificate should be going out to them. I don't think that we'll see vehicles before May. I think the target date is May 5th or May 6th. Is when that they were planning on putting, they have 7 of them, that will come to us, but then it'll take a little time for upfitting, at PVC, before they're us, but, 7 and then 1 later on down the road. Wait for it.
Yeah, so I don't know that we have any, does anyone have a question? Sure. Specifically? Okay. So we were gonna talk about the RFP. I started to go through this myself and Zane, because I had different things that I wanted to kind of see in here. Some of them were very somewhat smaller. How do you think it's best to go? Do you want to like walk through this page by page? What do you think is the best way to?
I don't know what walking through page by page is gonna be. I think if you look at it and you make some adjustments, I think we move to like a workshop and sit down. I think it would be appropriate if we're gonna workshop this out, we would probably have a couple of members that we choose, remember? I think the sheriff's office should obviously be represented, administration, and commissioner. Again, if you're interested in some of these, I think we might want to set up a little bit of a working group, in order to make that happen.
So if you do decide to table it for the workshop, I just asked that if you give us any copies ahead of time of any changes so that we could, have some time to.
Right.
That way we can, contribute a meeting with.
All right, so let's figure out then. I mean, I definitely wanted to kind of talk through the document and not that and talk through concerns, but not necessarily that I have some things I would like to change, some things I just want to talk about. And so I guess we need then to figure out when we would do this, maybe following our next workshop.
Yeah, or before. It would be nice to do before. I know that this is time sensitive because if we're gonna use any information, some of the stuff that I put in here was that it would take, we're requesting a 4-month turnaround in it, but it's gonna take some time to get the bids, to get it out to do that. So I was hoping for, the time for my season. However, it took me considerably longer to write this than I had anticipated. I figured I'd have done it by February. It was March, I think, before I handed it out. So I apologize for the delay, but I did put a lot of work into it. We can.
Okay, so commissioners, have you read through this? Do you have interest in like sitting down and talking about this RFP line by line?
I do think we need to have that line by line discussion at some point. I'm wondering if they might be able to get a calendar for the two bridges Well, so that's when they went through this back in the early 2000s, because they took the better part of a year, I think, getting to a consultant, with a consultant report back and so on. So I'm not sure what we expect in terms of timing to responses to the RFP and getting, to the point of selecting a consultant and how we coordinate with the other counties. And when we expect to have proposals in hand. Certainly not going to be happening before we get into 2017-27 budget discussion. But
So,
This RFP, for correction, though, this isn't for the jail RFP, this one's for the patrol.
okay, this is what, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I thought maybe I made a mistake.
No, yeah, this is a patrol line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
yeah, so more just a staffing study for our own facility, and so we haven't yet moved on to the Tri-County question. So anyway, yes, I guess, do you have interest in sitting down and kind of walking through this line by line?
I would love to do it, but I can't commit to anything for a while.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Right. So I think then, I mean, I definitely do, so maybe we just try to do, up to my, like, to cut, well, maybe I'll get to the date and say, here's some dates that, I can do it, make sure there's, you guys get somebody who can do it, and so on, if you would like to as well, then we'll just, maybe after we get done today, we'll just look at our calendars, and then we're not holding up the meeting, but we do get it on the books.
Yeah, I'd like to sit down sooner rather than later.
Right.
Get some constructive, redos here.
Yeah.
But make sure that everybody's on the same page, so that we can get this out sooner rather than later. And even if it does take a year, the sooner we get started, the sooner we get some results, and so that we can provide those, to, people who have
Right.
questions.
Okay, all right, so we'll look at our calendars after the meeting today, find a date, check with you guys, see if some of those dates work, and then we'll schedule that, right?
Good.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
The motion table that topic.
I mean, we discussed it. So I feel like we didn't table it, we have a plan that we're gonna walk through the language and do a working group on that. So, yeah. All right, we'll find a date, perfect, okay, so, yeah.
I apologize. What time do you think you'd want us back? Yeah.
What do we need you for, executive sessions?
Yes.
Okay,
I think that is it. For those, do you want to tentatively set a time for those, do you think?
maybe, let's see, I don't know, because let's see, we can't, 11:30, we're waiting for somebody, 12:30, we're waiting for somebody. So we could call Jeff back, and, I mean, we're moving through things actually way quicker. What's gonna end up happening to us, I can see, is that it's 12:30, with Tammy is gonna hold us up. Looks like to me, because we got.
Yeah, and she is planning on attending, and she has been notified that that's when she wasn't available otherwise. I think we can certainly get Jeff back over here. I can present the EMA agreement because it's just straightforward. We can talk.
And we could get deeds back for them.
Yeah, we can certainly go through the 1 o'clock stuff. I don't foresee a reason why we can't go through the 1 o'clock.
I think 1:30ish. I know it's 11 now, but instead of 2, you moved up a half an hour.
Yeah, or sooner. I'm guessing that we could do Albany at 12:30 and then you after that, because I think we can get through with all these updates with the meeting power and all that, those are taking minutes. So let's.
Take 1 o'clock. We can, let's go, we should answer.
I'm working, I'm getting Jeff over here now. We need to do 1 o'clock.
We'll take 5 break.
Good day.
15, and so I think What can we take up? I do want to stick to 11:30 for the even though you're here and I appreciate being early, but if people are watching, I want to wait for that. So Sherry's here.
We've got Tees and we've got Jeff. So we've got the 12 o'clock and the 1 o'clock here.
Thank you so much. Well, Sherry, yours might be faster, so could we do that?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll go to your hire. I'm so glad you're able to do this weekly.
Yes, I've already said how hard it was gonna be to try to replace Darren and big shoes, but I really feel strongly after the interview that Darren and Zane and I were able to have with Michelle, that she is the one that is eager to learn and to take up that role. And she has excellent customer service history, and the commitment to her company's culture is absolutely something that I absolutely value. So I think that she would be an excellent person, especially considering her future goals. She wants a place to call home. So I would really like to be able to have that type of person in that role, where they're not looking for growth to continue. They want to find a place that they can be really good at, be appreciated, and spend the rest of their working years. So she really showed me that was who she is. And of course, starting at level 4 of the 6 level pay scale, I think is adequate to, of course, get her in here and entice to get her in here, but she does have some growth opportunity. So that's promising as well for her to grow into that, those last 2 steps.
All right, we need a motion on this.
I move that we approve the hiring of Michelle Wakefield, the position of Deputy Register of Deeds, start date of May 11th, 2026. Wage rate $27.70 an hour with no special conditions.
All those in favor? Good.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Looking forward to meeting her.
Yes, next meeting.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
So Jeff, let's move on to you, and maybe we can start with Sweden Tower update. That is Article 11. I hope you're moving closer. You want
This
to?
is the one that reflects the letter, right?
Yep, this is the, yep, we're just gonna, basically, the Sweden Tower is up and running, and we've got this letter from Select Board in Sweden, and how we're gonna proceed with that.
As you know, we got the system come online full. And until we brought everything online fully, I didn't think it was ethical or responsible to start looking for tenants on the tower. So we've had an inkling that that's what we want to do. And what I'd like to do is work with you, the board, and talk about how we can move forward with putting customers on the tower to turn a liability basically into an asset that brings money back. And we've had a conversation, or I've had a conversation, his name is Dave Libby. He has worked with us. He's a tower owner with our system now, but he also oversees towers, brings in people to be, customers to be on your tower, and he works on a percentage, and I'd like to bring him to the workshop. What's the date of the workshop? In 2 weeks. So he can explain to you more what he does and how he works. Because we've been working with him for years as part of our system. Like I said, he is one of our tower owners. And if it's something that we have to put out for bid or RFP or whatever, we can do that, but he can give you a baseline of what we're gonna need to do. He takes care of monthly visits. He makes sure that the towers, the doors are locked and anything that needs to be updated, taken care of. He takes care of the small things. He won't climb the towers, but he keeps an eye on all of that stuff. And, that's where I'd like to go with that article is, we absolutely do want to put, customers on that tower. Because I believe AT&T is very interested because of FirstNet and would like to look at AT&T, T-Mobile and Verizon. Because I have room for three people on the tower, 3 other customers besides us.
Yeah, and so help me understand, like the towers now, I mean, it seems like he's gonna be overseeing them or something, but what happens with our towers now? Like, why do we need somebody to oversee this? If these people just put their equipment on, what is he doing?
Well, we don't really wanna, I've talked about this at different levels, but, he's in the business of taking care of these towers. It is a lot of responsibility. There's a lot that goes into it, contract writing to make sure that the contracts are consistent with industrial standard, the maintenance of that, and so forth. And this gentleman, and I'm sure there's others, so we may want to put this out to RFP. But this person steps in and takes care of that. Just running the RCC, he has his plate full with that, in doing that. And this is our first tower that we actually own. We are looking at just with some of the grants and stuff that we've been looking for to do others like this. And it's better to have a company that is in the business of running these. And yes, they get a 25%, pretty much the standard, industrial standard is for them to get a 25% of what is earned. However, they take care of, again, all of the calls between the carriers and that. And that addresses, if we need to do things like maintenance or something that comes up, then he lets us know what that is. And again, he's boots on the ground taking care of that. And as we go forward, I think it's appropriate because, again, Jeff's resources are tied up at the RCC and doing that.
And he takes care, when the camera comes on, it's just not a matter of saying, come on, put it on. They have to do structural analysis here. And all of those things, he takes care of making sure they're all correct, they're all fit within the structural analysis. And like I said, once they're on, he's the liaison between the cell companies and us.
Yeah.
And he also, like I said, he goes and makes sure the fences are up, he does a once-a-month inspection. And if you get, this tower happens to be particularly easy, but if you have a tower in a place that's hard to get at, he still gets there. That's what he does.
So is he doing any of the other towers that we're on? Like, so we own this one, so that's why we would be looking for.
We have a tower, we're on his tower in Peru.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He used to own Spruce Mountain. He manages the tower for, WXO on Black Mountain, so he's doing the same thing for WXO as he would be for us.
I'm totally fine him coming in and chatting with us, but I feel like we also move forward and put this out for RFP, like do both.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna
Yeah.
have to, so why not just create that and go do both?
Yeah.
Sound good?
If that's okay, that way, you'll get a feel of what he does and, that it may or may not be the direction that you want to go, but I mean, you'll find out when we have that conversation.
Right, no, I mean, just hearing you, I think we do have to put this out for RFP. I think I don't know if anyone else has a question on that. I mean, happy to hear from him, but I think we probably feel pretty good about just doing an RFP.
Yeah, and I think that's appropriate, but I also, we've got the town of Sweden's letter here, so to just, wanted us to expedite it. However, we do have to do our due diligence and we will not drag our feet on this, but they have to understand that there is a process to this and, we will work on it.
And I didn't feel it was right that we pursued anything until our communication was working.
Yeah.
Because,
So could we have a vote to put this sort of out for RFP so that seeing is able to move forward on that?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Yeah, so that way Sweden knows that we're moving forward and,
yeah, we can work on creating an RFP.
Yeah. And I think the second one is very quick too for Sweden.
okay.
I know we only got 4 minutes here, but I think it's well worth
let's do it. I didn't understand, like, I don't understand why we bought the equipment and now we're giving it away. I don't understand.
Well, our contract with them, for the site, because they own the ground that the tower sits on, was to provide them with radio service over there to that tower because they were lacking that, and that was one of the provisions, in the tower contract. Unfortunately, through the way the process went, they weren't allowed on the combiners, or they weren't put into the combiners. So we had to fulfill our obligation, buy certain equipment in order for them to have that technology, which was again part of the agreement. However, we agreed to buy the equipment, we didn't agree to own it for eternity. So we bought them the equipment, fulfilled our obligation, and now it's time to turn this equipment over to them, so that they have the maintenance of it as it goes forward.
And they will hire somebody to put it on the tower.
It's already done.
It's on it.
It's all on our obligations fulfilled and everything like that. This is just a list of the equipment that we purchased for them to conclude that part of the contract. And this is our last phase of that contract because we turn it over to them and they own it. And we are responsible for the maintenance.
And this, if I read, I'm just glancing, so this is to connect their fire department.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we need a motion to turn this equipment over to the town. Okay, perfect. And all those in favor?
Great. We'll get that signed by the chair and then we'll get that off the select board over there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need anything, let me know. If you have any questions, call.
Yeah.
All right.
One thing, the next, when you do things that just recognizing dispatchers, if you wanna give me a heads up, at some point, I would love to join you in some recognition for them, because I just think
Okay.
what they do is very important, and I'd like to be part of it.
They were very appreciative of the proclamation,
Yeah, good.
so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
See you later, John.
Right, so Chris Haven of Hope,
How you doing?
I'm very well. What is yours?
My name is Mark Malfoy. I'm gonna give you guys the packet. Got a flyer in it, brochure in it, a letter from Mar. And I got a little brief information.
Thank you very much.
That's my mother, Mary Ellen. We opened the sober house in Bryan Pond. On Christmas Haven, I hope, in honor of my brother, we lost on August 31st, 2024. His name was Chris. We are here today to try to get some extra funding, see if there's funding available for transportation, rental assistance for the guys. See if you guys on the package, so I can't read off it anymore, but
You want mine?
I'll just this one here. Yeah, the one with, stayed with one. That was the other. So what we provide, safe, sober housing for guys. We hold them accountable. There's a lot of structure in the house. Peer support, connection treatment meetings, employment support, transportation coordination. We offer a stable environment to rebuild families and lives. I got 7 guys in there now. We opened our doors February 19th. Yeah. We are very rural. We're on 49 acres. Transportation's an issue. We would really like to find out what kind of help is out there for us to get a transportation van, to get the guys back and forth to meetings, treatment court, work, especially. Right now, it's just me providing the transportation. I have some volunteer drivers. It's a lot.
And that's only with 7 right now.
Want to speak a little? A little better?
So our biggest, I don't know that anything is better than my son presenting this, but our biggest, like he said, our biggest, barrier is transportation. And so there's a letter from Mara, and there also, Mara wanted to be here. We are certified through Mara. We had a conflict, but, so they help out with 3 beds, 3 certified beds, they will cover while the men are looking for work. Problem we're running into is these guys all come basically with nothing. As you know, they're either coming out of court, coming out of jail, coming out of rehab, trying to rebuild their lives again. They're coming with nothing, and we don't want to have to turn anybody away, because that's not what we get into this business for. We get into this, after the loss of my oldest son a little over a year ago. He was huge in the sobriety world. He got clean himself and was clean 3 years before he passed away.
He helped get me off the streets and.
We had him off the streets,
Put me in rehab.
and his younger brother too. So this is why we did it in Chris's name, because this is what he wanted. He wanted to help everybody the way he got the help. He wanted to pay it forward. We are very rural, like Mark said. We knew it was gonna be a challenge for us, didn't realize how much of a challenge being so rural, people coming with no vehicles, people coming with no money. We're not here to turn people away, we take them in, but we can't pay for everybody. And we're looking for some kind of help. We've been told that this is the money out there from the opioid crisis settlement. There's money, there's different means of money. Where we're so with this, we're needing help. We even brought our newest friend in to give us the help. He's been up to the house.
Yeah, I went on a couple of weeks ago. It's out on the Greenwood Road before that first boat launch on the interest for. And there's a sign there on the right, I took a motorcycle ride out there when it was spring. A couple weeks ago, and really was concerned about getting the bike down the hill once I went up the hill. But essentially, they took a large house that was a wreck. And I think you remortgaged another property, did out of pocket.
My own house.
And if you ever go, they have a Facebook site, if you ever go, you can see that transition. From what it was to now with some immaculate housing rooms, and it's really a warm environment for somebody who, somebody like me 37 years ago could use something like that. There are currently 6 members there. And they are desperately in need of some kind of transport, because like they said, they have people that need urinalysis, they have people that go to AA meetings, they have people go to job sites or interviews.
Job hunting.
Job hunting.
And we're only 2 people. So we're finding that it's become a big issue, and mainly when we try to bring them to meetings, we have to have 2 to 3 cars. Right now we have 7 people, so we're needing 2 cars, but so we're really looking for some kind of help with a transportation vehicle for these men, with some kind of funding. I don't know what the commission is all involved in as far as the money goes, as far as distributing to help maybe 1 month, the first month or the second month, to get these guys to be able to go out and find jobs. So we have a couple different needs. Those are our strongest. I'm out of money. I've done what I could. Like you said, I took my home that was almost paid for retirement and put a line of credit on it, and we put quite a bit of money into this house to make this work, and we want to make sure it works, because definitely it is needed in the rural area. We are finding out more and more. Community has been amazing. Community has helped out, working with donating couches and furniture and food and stuff. They want to see this successful. They want to see their loved ones helped. They want a place for them. I have 4 boys, 3 of them being addicts. I know what it's like for a parent to have the trust in their child that says, I'm recovered. I'm in a rehab now, I'm all better. was very hard after many years of believing that, whether you're a parent, whether you're a friend. These people need somewhere where they can go build their independent lives again and let their loved ones believe in them again. Because everybody deserves a second chance. And that's what we're trying to do, is give them all a second chance.
Contact information for, the opioid board.
Yep, they have an email address. There's, which is, I can provide that to you. There's the Oxford County Opioid Response Committee, who kind of, not necessarily represent the commissioners, but kind of guide them in what they think is best to spend the money on. There's currently a budgeting period going on right now. So I'm not sure, maybe for the commissioners, whether or not, like, you can reach out to the committee, but essentially there's nothing really they can do unless the commissioners authorize them to either open some sort of application period or funding. But as of right now, the funding that the commissioners have authorized to be dispersed have all been dispersed.
When's the next settlement coming? Payment so we can,
I'm not sure, we just got them, it's coming on like a rotating basis, so there are funds in there, it's just a matter.
what's available?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, I can see what the most recent, it can be projected.
If we gave them the, show the board, give them better information than we can give right now.
I will get you information, but we had a time period already where people applied and then were awarded grants out of the opioid settlement funds. And we don't have another, like, at this point, there isn't one set up where we're opening the opportunity up again, but when it does, it'll be that same process where people fill out an application and then they'll be reviewed and kind of scored by the review committee that we have set up, as far as like where they recommend the money going, and that's the process we did before. We haven't talked again about when we're opening that up again. There was treatment options that we were looking at doing here at the county as well for addiction treatment, that we were considering using the funds for going forward, but that decision hasn't been made either, fully. So, I think next steps are the commission does have to, make a decision about when we're gonna open that up again, but I thought it was 3 years that we've funded out to, right? Isn't that a 3-year? So at least it was my understanding that we did that, we would let that play out for 3 years and then open it up again and look again, but I'm not sure that that was our decision. That was just maybe in my mind of how we handled that.
Yeah, as far as I know, you haven't made any decisions when it closes at the end of, I believe it's September 30th. Is the end of the funding period. And so I think there comes some plans besides that after those funding reports come in. Wasn't really discussed if there's gonna be another round or if there was gonna be, but yeah, one of them is funded for 3 years.
Okay, but the others are just the year.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, okay, yes, sorry, that was actually the anomaly, was that someone had a 3-year, okay. Yeah, so I think we have to make decisions about what we're doing. I still think it's, even though I don't know that we have that opened, that we're gonna open that up again to proposals, I think it's really valuable for you to reach out to the group and make those connections. Maybe you already have.
Who is that?
Can you tell them the names of the people that are actually on that group?
Yeah, it's,
I think there's Glenn, but he's in my area, so.
Is that Glenn Gordon? Is that?
yeah, Doug Gordon,
They're just, the reason I say I think it's really valuable to reach out to them anyways, because they're all working in that same.
Is it all what?
They're all working in the same like recovery space, and they would know so much more than we do about what else might be out there other than the opioid.
Yeah.
So,
Glenn Gordon, Dr. Lisa Miller, Dr. Janet Prue,
Was it Janet Prue?
and Kari Taylor from Omari.
Carter with Lamar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and a while ago, we allocated, I think, $500,000 towards this, and they helped us come up with a plan in order to distribute this. They may have some things that they also know are going on, and also they'll be the first to be notified when we decide to allocate more money to that. When we receive money to allocate for that, they'll be the first people to know, because we'll utilize that board like we.
These people here, let me just.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sorry that we don't have anything for you today, but certainly, we appreciate all the work you're doing in the community. We will keep you in mind, when and if we do, Abby will keep this, I will keep it on my desk. And when the commissioners do decide to open this up, then we will make sure that you're notified and made aware, because these, I think, are very reasonable requests. So,
Yes,
thank
I
you
just
for your
want
time.
the information that Commissioner Turner was asking for. So, Oxford County overall expected to receive about 2.5 million, and out of that, 500,000 has been allocated. So that's how much we're expected to receive by 2030.
It comes in from time to time. We get payments from these as the settlements are made. That's what our estimated, what we're gonna receive on a course of, I think it's like 14-year time period. But we have received the 500,000, which we worked with that committee in order to allocate out. It was a little bit of a process that people went through. There was a lot more people that applied than got granted, because they picked the top 5. But again, that committee is really based in on how we distribute that.
Yeah.
So they're the best people to contact and go through. And like I said, I will, is there any kind of phone number on this?
Yes.
There's a shooter in the back.
Right, you got it on the back right there. Okay.
I was gonna say, I highly suggest too, if you're okay with it, us keeping your email on the agenda list, because then you'll get agendas every time the commissioners meet. So you'll see if there's anything going on with the opioid discussions or anything like that. Then you'll see it right away. If you're okay with that, we'll just keep you on the agenda list. Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for taking the time to come in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
You want this back? I still have from you guys.
No, that's mine.
That was yours. Okay.
And you can have, with your purpose.
Thank you.
So this is a good friend of Scott's.
Thank you for this.
all right, so we could move on to the items that we had under the 1 o'clock and finish up there. EMA, buildings and grounds, and your worksheet.
The EMA is really straightforward.
It's a deputy.
This is the EMA is an agreement that we re-up every year. And Allison gave a little statement there. It's been in place amongst the counties for nearly 30 years. And every few years, we revisit and renew our option for mutual aid. And they've provided the packet. It's already been signed off on by the emergency management director. And it's just looking for your signatures. We signed this just the other day. I saw their meeting. They signed on to this. And it was just again, says that we as our EMA will help other counties' EMA should they be overwhelmed and need our assistance, and in return, they will do the same for us. I think it's very good practice.
Agreed. Do we have a motion?
Yep, I move that we renew the inter-county agreement of support due to EMA issues.
Thank you.
so we can go on to buildings and grounds. Article 14.
So, I'd like to start at the beginning, and the beginning is that in 2022, 23 area, before I came on board, there was a significant study going in that went in here, as far as, infrastructure and buildings went. It was determined that the buildings that we had were not sufficient to house our employees, that they needed something new. And there was a significant study, that went into it. And at the end of that study, they decided to build, what was called a public safety building. And basically came down, Donnie Dura started it, commissioners approved it. I don't know how much money we spent on all the drawings and everything like that, but it was far north of a few $100,000. They basically walked around and looked at all the buildings that we had, and since then we've kind of repurposed some of those buildings. But what I can say is that the issues with these buildings are causing more and more problems for us. EMA, they needed to replace 2 windows at EMA that were, very leaky during the winter time. And as soon as they opened up the side of the building, they realized that they were gonna have to replace a bunch of the outside of the building, and they did the best job they could. But you can see all the new siding, and you can also see the mold on the outside of the house up there. That all needs to be eventually be replaced within the next year or two. And that's one of our better buildings. We have a building down at IT is in right now, that there's a quote of over $30,000 to replace the front porch, so it's been barricaded because you can't step on it, because you'll fall through it. The roof was quoted over $30,000 to replace the roof on the back side, because every time it rains, water pours into the office space there, which all the ceiling tiles fall down. We try to mop up the water, deal with the issue, but basically in order to replace that roof, some of the siding has to be pulled back on that, and that is asbestos siding on the building. So therefore, the quote for that is north of $30,000. The RCC, we've had continual issues with the toilet over there. With that, we've started running an air purifier over there. I had a visit from the Maine Labor Board. It was expensive over this toilet. We've blocked the toilet, they can't use the toilet. They do have other bathrooms that they can use in that establishment, but they have to, walk to them. The Maine Labor Board did agree that that would suffice. And that there will be a ruling at some point on that complaint that came in. Like I said, they showed up here unannounced. They made a mandatory site visit. They interviewed all of our employees that were there over it. And these are just the things to come. If we don't do something about these buildings, that lady said to me, we may have to shut this building down. I don't know what that means to you, but 911 calls have to go shift someplace else. I mean, that's
What reason did you give for shutting it down?
for unsanitary conditions. Workers being in a place that were unsanitary. She backed down after she saw the place and walked through.
Okay.
But those are, but again, those were one of the things that I'm concerned. I'm concerned. I'm very concerned about this infrastructure, and I think that I guess I'm trying to impress upon you folks is I think that we need to build a new building. And I think that it needs to not be at the span or at the magnitude of what was originally proposed, because it kind of jumped from 17 million to 34, and then it was 50 something by the time we sat down with a congressional delegation in order to try to get them to help us fund it. But I do see the benefit in building a smaller building at the bottom of the hill here that puts IT and IT, because they're the worst building, and puts the RCC in this building, so that maybe without RCC being inside that building, that we can do enough renovation in order to save it. We can't do it while RCC is in there. There's too much computers, infrastructure and so forth in there. And I know that we don't want to go out for a bond. So I have explored some options that would save us from going out to a bond. We do have casino fund money. And I think that, we would obviously have to go out to proposal on this and something like that. But I have piqued the interest of a couple of local contractors that would be willing to build this building for us and then lease it back to us. So in other words, we put a certain amount down, probably $1 million, maybe $1.5 million, which I've looked for and can come up with out of contingency funds that I have in my office, buildings and ground and the RCC. And we could build this new building. And we would, if we wanted to pay it off early, we would, but the payment would be around $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And it would be approximately $5 million that the building would be worth. But that we could get it there, and we could also get it so that it was designed in order to be able to be added on. You know, I think EMA would be the next building that we would want to add to that down there. And EMA, and the reason why I didn't put EMA in the building to begin with is because I feel like EMA is our best chance of getting a grant to build a building for them through federal EMA type kind of thing. Because again, the big problem with this house up here is that it's a residential house, and we're using it for what they would classify as commercial purposes. And it's not ADA compliant. They're still bringing stuff up the hill that they're putting back on there. So those are some things that I'm concerned about, and I think that we need to be at least looking at this option to do a new building down there. And I'm hoping that you support me. I really have looked at this a lot of different ways. I've been looking at this since 3 weeks after I arrived here as to what we're going to do, and not in just a little effort, but in a concerted effort to try to figure this out and to be able to do this. And, you know, a lot of people said you'll never find anybody in order that will front it and then let you pay them back. And I found somebody. I met with them last week, and they're seriously willing to give us a proposal. They did say that they wouldn't just contract with us and do it. They would want us to go out to bid. And it was a group of local business people coming together to support us as the county and say, you know what, we'll invest in this county and we'll make this happen for you. So I was really impressed by that. I didn't think, most people told me, even bankers told me, you'll never get anybody to do this. But that's my suggestion to you folks. In the meantime, we're going to have to continue to invest some money into these buildings in order to get them through. Because even if we were to decide today that we were going to do this, we wouldn't be able to break ground until next year.
So, yeah, I mean, I did a walk around with you and have been thinking about buildings, for a while, because we've talked about it several times, and I agree that we need to build something and figure that out. I do, before we get more into this discussion, though, one thing, because we are recorded and what we're saying here is out to the public completely. I don't want to exaggerate anything. I want to make sure we're being really factual. So we had a site visit that happened at the RCC.
Yes.
And so the wording that was used is that we're going to have to shut you down for unsanitary conditions was overblown, because in fact, when they did the inspection, there are not unsanitary conditions. Like are being in a place that is acceptable by state standards, and that concerns me a lot. So I just want to make sure that we are accurately portraying that out to the public, that as it stands now. And yes, I don't think that it's ideal that we're shutting down a bathroom that's close. They should not have to walk a distance when their jobs are so important. Like, they need to be able to have those facilities close to them. So I think that is unfortunate, and I'm not downplaying that, but I just want to make sure that we're putting it out there.
Yes, no, I was saying the statement more that I was kind of like, I had a whole plan up for a day. And it took me my whole day. Abby was out because she was on vacation, and I had several meetings planned that day. Jeff had several meetings planned that day. And we basically had to drop everything and submit to this. I said, can we reschedule this? And she said, I'll go get a search warrant if you don't allow me access to that building.
Yeah, when they show up, they don't.
And so I was like, okay, we're doing this today. And she, said something in front of Jeff about having to shut the building down for unsanitary conditions. And I said, that's our RCC, that's all the 911 calls, I'll speak to your supervisor if you do that. So, she said, well, let's go over and take a look. And you're right, it did de-escalate. We had the incident that took place, happened at around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. We had an employee from our maintenance crew respond immediately. They snaked the drain, did not find any obstruction in it. They cleaned up the water that was sitting on the floor. But I don't want to downplay it either. It wasn't clear water. It was not a good smell in there. So again, although I don't really feel like anybody was exposed to anything hazardous and all the people involved made the right calls, this has been something that has been going on for a significant amount of time. And really the only way to address that over there is to either close the bathroom or to tear up the concrete floor in there and redig and do all that. And I don't see that happening while it's open. I would see us having to move them to a temporary structure in order to do that. And again, I think if they knew that, if we knew that help was coming or that something new was coming, I think that would be more advantageous.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I think we need the employees there, all of our employees, to know that we care about the buildings that we expect them to go and look at. Like they need to be comfortable. And I totally agree with you about IT as well. And I think it makes sense having IT and the communications in the new building together, because also just the equipment is so sensitive to everything that's around them, and we should try to find a way that we're, closing that better and, proper surroundings for that very costly and essential equipment, so.
And they work collaboratively in a lot of different places with a lot of different resources. So having them being able to have interaction by walking across the hallway or walking within the same building only increases our efficiency in those things. Right now, one's at the bottom of the hill and the other one's at the top. So when they have to collaborate, they have to, go together. So I think that it's something that it'll take some time. I would like to get the commissioner's approval that we get working on a project like this. And I think that I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense in the fact that we could allocate, we get approximately $800 to $1 million a year from the casino. And we typically put $600,000 to $800,000 towards tax abatement. But I think that if we took this 400 or 500 out of that first, and then whatever we had left over, we use towards tax abatement, I think would be a wise decision. I don't want to dip into the 3.2 million that we have set aside. I don't want to utilize that for anything because that helps us with our cash flow. But I do think that, utilizing the money coming forward, not only would help overall the tax burden, because we're spreading it over 10 years and getting what we need, but also because the original intent of that casino money was to help infrastructure in Oxford County to improve. And and I think that it does that at that.
So why do you say we wouldn't want to go out to a bond? Is that because of the time, like it takes so much time and convincing, so people don't understand?
Yeah, we would have to wait for 2 years from now, so we wouldn't be able to go out to bond for 2 years from now. And
the waiting is the.
I think the waiting is important, and I think and again, as bonds go, it starts growing and getting more, and that's what happened with the past one. It went from being 16 million to 34 to what was
require voter approval too.
Yes. Yep.
What if you put together a plan of sources and uses, particularly starting with the uses that you see as most urgent in terms of space, what entities would be located there, and utilize the feedback you've gotten from local entities that would be willing to engage in a lease purchase construction plan. And then come back to what you think is reasonable. I'm not talking about a public safety building where we put in huge amounts of people, but you mentioned space and scope. So if you could put together a plan of potential uses and costs, and stay away from bonding, because I think that's not only timely, but time consuming, but might not fly in the current voter attitude and approval. But I really like the idea of sources being examined. And you mentioned grants at one point. I don't know if DNA or any other sources that we might have other than our reserve accounts, that casino in particular, because I think casino is going to start taking down and not doing well. But anyway, if you could put together a plan, a reasonable size and scope and purpose, and give us something more to chew on than the group that you said expressed some interest in putting together a plan and having commitments to the county and et cetera. If you could flesh that out a little bit and come back with something like the scope and purpose, design, and then we secondarily, if we saw it as something we could afford over time, where would we go for the sources, either leased or whatever? And I think if you're saying this should be done in calendar 26, or at least the commitment.
Yep.
I need to look at something that's got some numbers and some space and some plans and stuff like that to work from. I keep wondering if there are grant opportunities that we might have an interest in, the Maine Community Foundation, the logical sources, the grant writers from, that have invested so much money. I'm blanking on the name of the project. That we know that various financing entities have awarded monies to public entities, hospitals, schools, that we might be eligible. To be creative about this, if we're gonna get what we think we need.
Yeah, I'm prepared to get creative. Because I do believe that it is a strong need that we need. It's not a want, it's a need.
One of the things, and this is probably not, it may be a moot point since it's maybe not possible, but one of the things that grants would help us if it's us building it, but if what is actually going to happen is a private investor, for-profit business is going to build a building and at a profit, lease it to us. So I don't know then that I think we take away our grant opportunities at that point, because it's not even our building. It is a for-profit business, which, all day long, that makes sense. If there's someone to do this, because we are a very good investment, since we can tax people and it's a 100% sure bet for them to get their money back. So, that's better than the stock market, ROI. So I appreciate that this is an opportunity, but I see the benefit for the investors as well.
No, they pointed that out to me.
Yeah.
When I met with them, because I asked those very questions, like why? Why would you do this?
Yeah.
How would you do this? And so forth. So, and again, I've been speaking to a couple of local people in regards to just, could you do this?
Yeah.
And they are prepared to escalate to letters of intent, to those kind of things. So it will take me a little bit of time in order to get back and so forth, and give you, like Solomon said, a space and scope, as well as some other things. And I will look at some other forms. This last year has not been great for grants. I can tell you that it hasn't really worked out, and I would think the USDA might have, something, so I'm gonna be meeting with AvCog, shortly, and I will also, pick, through them, which I have already done, but I will say, hey, anything new come up, that's available for us, for funding like this. Because again, if we could pay for it all up front with grants and things like that, that would even be better. Or if we had to do $1 million match to get a $5 million building, that would be awesome. I would be very hopeful about that. So I will look, and I'll list Williamson's help to look, and EMA's help to look, and
One of the things that, as you were talking, that I wondered, because you mentioned that EMA is more likely to get grants, so, if we were able to put house the two, the IT and RCC over there, maybe then the grant for EMA goes towards fixing that building over there, and then becomes, then at least on the back end, we've got the hope of maybe a grant of doing that, but I know that's super delayed. And I guess I would say, let's reach out to our congressional delegation as well, but we need something more, we can't just say, hey, we've got this idea, we really need this building. We have to have something to hand them.
We have, like I said, in the first 3 weeks that I was here, I was in front of Charlene Tremley, Ben Tucker, and the other person, I can't remember his name, from
Gold's office.
From Gold's office. And we did a presentation, the group that had been working on this plan did a presentation in front of me, really, at my impress. I mean, I was very impressed with all the work that they had done to it, and so was the delegation. However, they were like, "Oh, we can't help." So that kind of started to wane on that idea. And really, I've talked with a lot of people in public, and a proposal of finding people to support a $50-something million building is not around. Nobody likens that. However, when you start talking, $4 to $5 million, you start piquing people's interest because they know what benefit it would be to the community to have that. And again, it would allow us to, once we move people out, see what we can actually do to save those buildings over there on the other side, because they are an important part of our infrastructure.
I think back to what Commissioner Pine was talking about, external funding from grants and ownership of a facility would be ideal. Renting from a private entity, to me, would be the least attractive. In the middle, isn't there an option of lease purchasing? Wherein the project would be undertaken by interested parties with some commitment in writing to us with a short-term lease back leading to ownership. Because I'm not enthused about a long-term rental of, an entity that's gonna escalate the payments and make money off us in time, over time, permanently even. So I'd like the lease purchase idea to be in the mix.
That's what I proposed to these groups, was something that would be up to 10 years, lease to own, pay $1 at the end of 10 years. But also, if we were able to pay it off early, say a 5-year commitment, and all of a sudden we came up with something that was allowing us to do this, the casino expanded rather than declined, or we somehow got some sort of something in order to help us out with that, we would be able to pay off early as well. So, I don't think a long-term lease of us giving property to somebody to make money off of us until eternity is a good option.
You want to do for that either way, the long-term rental.
Right.
I understood it the way
Right.
when he explained it, I understood that as at least a buy.
So Sullivan, Commissioner Sullivan, what do you consider long-term? 10 years long-term or 5 years?
I think 10 is the max. I mean, we're in for 4-year terms, and I don't like the idea of 15, 20, those long-term contractual commitments, given the fact that the voters of Oxford County would be a little sensitive to that kind of thing. But if a lease purchase payback of 10 or less could be afforded with some sources that we could identify in advance, like the casino money and or utilizing some of our reserves, but not depleting them. And some of our unfunded, unbudgeted, end of year audits when we finalize them. But, yeah, my view, short term is 10 or less.
Well, that's how we did, our framework has been, short term with the option to purchase. And we put some time in it and a lot of thought on what's the best for Oxford County, and I think we have a very strong option myself. And utilizing Oxford County people or contractors to do that work is a plus as well, so.
Yeah.
So I support Zane's recommendations, and what we have around here, I'm piecemealing this work from direction of Zane, and these things are getting costly. No matter how you put it, it's getting costly, and it's I won't use language on it.
No, but and I think that that's fair too, is that I think that I should get you a spreadsheet that shows what some of the costs are for these things that we really need to pick off and do, because they've really grown over the last few months. We still have the air conditioning handler to deal with over at the sheriff's office, and it's already getting that time of year. I've told them that I probably will try to get them through another year with just providing another air conditioner or two. But eventually that's part of that building's infrastructure. It needs to have that unit fixed, which again is very expensive. So we're picking and choosing. Tony's been very great at helping me with these projects, and you sort of folks have been great at approving them and getting them underway. So we'll continue to, but I will get you a list of scope, what that looks like too.
So before we leave this topic, because I kind of wanted to, this is, maybe we can just brainstorm for 1 second, the cupola repair.
Ooh.
So when we did our little tour, we talked about that again, and I know how essential it is. And I was thinking, really, you saw and might have some ideas on this, but it is sitting above the court room that the state uses. So it is in our side of the building, but that courtroom is the state's courtroom. And the cupola sits above it. So they have the buildings and repair budget. How do we get them to work with us on this? Like, it's just too much for the county to take on. It's very expensive, but it needs to happen. So I just didn't know if you had some ideas on who we talk to and.
In your earlier role, you dealt with the judicial budget.
Yeah.
The Chief Justice Valerie Stanfill has a financial person that usually puts together a budget for capital repairs, including courthouse building. Another aspect of that, I think, might be historic preservation. There's a certain ability to say that cupola has an historic value. And there's a little bond bill sitting out there that I managed to get through with $10 million for historic buildings. And that could be a source of improvement there, but I start with the judicial budget. And
So is that a meeting then with Valerie Stanfield's financial person? do you
yeah,
think?
I think it would be worth having.
Okay.
So Tony, I don't know whether we have some old estimates. I know Eddie has some old documents as to what, because he quoted me that the price just to set the staging was $70,000.
Yeah.
So I will,
Yeah, what's on?
the staging.
I know, like you couldn't pay me enough to get up there.
Yeah, it's expensive, so I will get you some of that information.
Yeah.
The old estimates and stuff which were done the last couple of years, to do that. I know they painted it with some sealant and did some stuff, and it was,
They did some Band-Aids.
yeah, it was expensive. But yes, I just wrote that down.
So-
Foundation capital
So
repair.
maybe that's a meeting that you and I try to have together, Zane, so that because I think that's the best way is for us to go after the judicial budget. I agree.
What time?
Yeah.
I propose that we talk to the local state people that we deal with daily and work it from this end up. And if we can work it the other way as well, we
Meaning
get some
what?
traction.
Meaning what?
Well, we have a rep for the state side, maintenance person. So I think we should get the cost put together and we
I
start.
don't think it's ever been proposed to them that they be responsible for half of it, and I'll get out the MOU and go through the MOU to make sure that we have some sort of standing and asking them for that.
I see.
So, yeah, it's a, yeah,
Right, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, first bring it to them, make sure that they're aware, talk it through and just see if, you know, if maybe we don't have to go up there, maybe we go through stateside here first, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
yeah, I'll get the MOU together and, I've got some points of contact there and we'll
Start there.
start there.
Okay,
Then I'll get those old estimates together, so at least we know what it was gonna be 2 years ago, which may have changed substantially, but it was a good target.
okay.
Wow, thank you, Commissioner Conlon. I wasn't even thinking about the cupola.
Well, yeah, well, I've been, because you said everyone around here, like, no one in Dixfield cares if there's a cupola on this building, but apparently everyone around here really finds it important landmark, and I understand that. I think sense of place is really important, so,
If it was missing, it would be noticed. Try.
yes, I'm sure it would be. But for nobody in Dixfield. Okay, so do we wanna, the only thing we have left is,
All right, so I just want to recap. just
Yes,
before
let's
we
do
move
that.
on.
I
I just
100%.
want to make sure we just went over a lot of
we did.
things, so I just want to recap for me. I'm gonna work on getting a space and scope of what a new building would be.
Yeah.
And some things going from grants all the way down to a lease back within a 10-year time period. And that is something that I will work diligently on and try to get you some information, maybe not for the next workshop, but for the next meeting for certain. The other part is we're gonna work on starting with the cupola and working our way back onto that cupola type kind of thing to see who we can get involved with that. And keeping in mind, we could maybe go to the judicial bench at some point or historical preservations. So I'll work on that. Is that the direction the board wants me to take?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
all right. Thank you.
very-
I just want to recap, make sure I understood.
Yes,
Thank you.
good, yeah, good call there. Okay, so we are supposed to do the Albany Township at 12:30. But, and then the only other thing we have is the administrative worksheet. You have a preference, do you want to talk about your worksheet?
Camera is here.
And someone was here, okay, yeah, I know, I'm cognizant of our our agenda because it lists times and sometimes people join our meeting at the time that they want to see, and I know possibly for.
I would like to, especially with Albany, wait
Exactly,
till
that's-
12:30 because it was advertised at 12:30.
Right, and somebody from Albany might decide to jump on, so, all right, so let's just then move to your worksheet if we could, Sam.
Okay,
And
it was long.
okay, so busy. Anything you particularly, Commissioner, did you want to ask, or Zane, would you like to highlight some things for us in this?
Continue to work on the implementing of the enterprise project. That is kind of marked once or twice in here, but really it went on daily for a bit. I've been running some back and forth between the enterprise and risk pool to make sure that we get what they need. So legal on both sides is involved. I've been more than really taking action. I've been monitoring, and every once in a while, I did have a discussion with Malcolm. I do think they're going to come to an agreement. As soon as that is signed, then we will be looking, we're still on target to get our vehicles delivered sometime in the early part of May. I think May either 5th or 7th rings the bell, but I've had a lot of dates in my brain. So again, we're continuing to work that forward and I'll continue to be involved in that. As you remember, last meeting or the meeting before our workshop, Newry had asked us to help them with funding. We couldn't do that, but we did write a very strongly worded letter of support to try to help them out with that. worked on the RFP. As you can see, I presented that to the sheriff, and we're gonna continue to have some workshops on that and once we get some dates and figure that out. The TAN, I've been working on the process of the TAN because there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on. I was actually taking calls yesterday at last minute from Andy Strogan, but we submitted several different things to them. Albany Township, been in touch with them and have been talking with several of their residents have come in and met with me, and we talked about some of the ideas. I also had on County Day flag from the flags. I had a lengthy conversation with Harold Jones, Chip Jones from the state. He had his table there, and there wasn't a lot of other people, so we had a very lengthy talk about all things UT. And one of the things that he reminded me of, which I did relay to Tony, is that we really need to make sure we're paying attention to the other UTs that we have. It's not just Albany. And we have gotten really focused on Albany lately. And we really need to keep in mind that if we're giving Albany, local meetings and forums and stuff like that, what about the other ones? What about Galway? What about, our others? Yes, we owe an obligation to them. So we need to make sure we're focused on that. That was one of the conversations and I relayed that to Tony. It's changed my perspective a little too. So I want to keep that.
It's a good reminder for us as well. Thank you.
Yep. Ramp, got trained in ramp. So working on that, actually have more rights to the ramp program than I did to Bill. I'm not sure that I'm in love with that, but okay. The other thing that's on here, and I know I emailed out to you folks, was the 162 pages of the Bose Buck Camp thing. So just Tony and I are going to take a chance and go up there after mud season's finished and go up and maybe grab some before and after pictures if we can of what's going on up there. But what a big project. So
we've had some commissioners meeting up there in the past. We actually had a committee, I think this was even before we had a workshop with a regular meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I
All
think,
of the camps?
Yeah.
I think actually, because aren't you supposed to go to the UC once a year, right? And then instead of doing the tour, you just had it up there.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if recently, it's when we did it.
You had like once a year. I didn't get to go, I had to study the phones.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't be broadcasting the meeting up from up there.
No.
At this point right now, we're working on that though. Working on that. Tax documents, workers' comp issue, all pretty straightforward. MSA conference, I attended, and I really felt like they did a great job. Again, the next morning I attended the county day because nobody called me to tell me that they canceled it.
When we left Hungary, on Sunday Road, I think we all had it, I don't know whether you had it tonight in your calendar, but I was planning on getting up at 5 o'clock and I did. And heading for Augusta because it was county day. And I get up and there's a text from Andre saying, oh, just heard that the legislature canceled everything. And so I said, well, let's keep in mind that appropriations probably will come in and I'm available. Call me if you need me.
Okay.
He's down there and 2 or 3 other commissioners are, and every now and then a legislator or two stop by. I was glad you were there.
Well, it was worth our time. Like I said, I had a great discussion with Chip. Also, talking to Andre and networking. Penobscot County had a couple of people there as well. While I was dealing with the UT, so I got a little bit of look at. It's never bad to do some networking like that.
Yeah.
Did some interviews with the IT department, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later. But hopefully, we found somebody that's going to be that needle in the haystack. And Abby was out last week, so she did help out with the agenda. But I got my feet wet on agenda writing, and I'm glad Abby's back.
Yeah. Just a what is, on number 8, you wrote, meet with Jess Goff regarding mental health services at RCC. Is that just something that for the employees or what is that?
Yeah, so Jess is a hire through, Community Concepts. And what she does is she does mental health check-ins with our employees, and we have a contract with her that she's scheduled to, I think, once or twice a month, come in, and she makes herself available. People fill in her calendar and request visits with her. She usually spends 10 to 15 minutes with people, but she also offers her time over at the RCC, but she does check in the whole complex. And I happened to meet with her that day, and we sat for probably half an hour to an hour just discussing the status of the county, the status of the RCC, and things going forward. That is a very, very helpful program over there. If you wanted to know details of what she does over at the RCC, I'd suggest talking with Jeff. And Jeff meets with her regularly too.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. Two things that I wanted to get on our calendar, looking at this just reminded me, I think we're supposed to eat at the jail. So I don't know, Abby, if you could help kind of coordinate that for us. I think every year we're supposed to go to the jail and eat the food.
Yeah. We'll see you. Have done for a while, but we should.
And then the other thing is that we dropped off sort of the, inviting the department employees to come meet us.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if no one is interested, but would you mind just following up on that? And
Yeah, I'll see if,
see if we could get them to come. And so we finish that up. I really would, that was very beneficial to me. So I'd love to think we could see the rest of the departments.
One thought, just to throw it out, this being the 250th anniversary of our country and July 4th coming up. And I'm interested in being more visibly supportive of events like the safety issue, which Tony brought up this morning. Should we as a county do anything in observation of July 4th being the 250th anniversary of the country, patriotism and or doing anything symbolically or otherwise? The more visible we are in the county, I think the better off we all are. Food for thought. I don't have any specific idea.
Yeah, I like that suggestion. I like the suggestion. Do you have, so maybe Abby, we can talk about that again too. It might be something fun to, you're doing things with wellness works and whatnot. But yeah, maybe we could loop something in, but make it a little, make it a little bigger and something.
Yeah.
Tie into that.
there's something like that.
Yeah, I like the suggestion a lot. All right, so we have 12:29, so we will move on now to Article 6, which is an update from the Center of Ecology-Based Economy and all things Albany Township. Not all things Albany Township. Let me rephrase. Let's go right back. It's only the Ecology-Based Economy update. Thank you, Sarah.
Hello, it's good to see all of you and thank you for your time. I just wanted to give you a brief update on how enrolling the Albany Township is going, and, you know, some next steps to move forward. And then also I wanted to, on the note of getting some other townships engaged, I also wanted to ask if there are any other townships in the county that you think would be a good fit for this program. And just as a reminder, the Center for an Ecology-Based Economy, we're an environmental nonprofit right down the road. So we are not the Community Resilience Partnership, but we are a service provider for the Community Resilience Partnership, which means that we get funded to help communities enroll and apply for grants through the partnership. Right now, there are over 200 communities enrolled in the state. Currently, there is only one township enrolled over in Washington County. Once we get Albany enrolled, I'm also working with three townships up in Franklin County. Once we get them enrolled, there will be 5, which is really exciting. And so we're interested in continuing that and really trying to focus on getting more of this state funding into the rural townships. And so if there are any that you have in mind, we would be more than happy to work with them as well. And we need to apply for a service provider grant by May 15th. And so if you could, you don't need to make any decisions today, but similar to last time where you passed a municipal resolution equivalent at the county level, you would need to do that, prioritizing specific townships. So sometime before May 15th, put some thought into which townships you might be interested in enrolling, if any. And either CB can work with them, or maybe we can coordinate with AvCog. Like we can be flexible, but we would be happy to get some more townships enrolled. Okay, so now for the update. We've had 2 meetings over at the fire station for Albany Township. The first one was not very well attended. There were only a couple of residents. I think that's because there was a miscommunication with somebody from the Albany Improvement Association, and we weren't able to get the word out ahead of time the way that we had hoped. And so the second meeting was very well attended. I don't know the exact amount, but there were probably around 20 people there. Most of them were residents. And most of that meeting was spent explaining what the Community Resilience Partnership and CB is. And because a lot of people attended that meeting thinking that it was a follow-up from the forum that happened in September. And so separating those 2 things took most of the meeting. And then we introduced what the Community Resilience Partnership is, and we talked a little bit about what the list of actions that are eligible for funding are. And so we scheduled a follow-up meeting for this coming Sunday, Sunday, April 26th from 12 to 2 p.m. I did bring some flyers if any of you are interested in taking some and hanging them up or just spreading the word. But that will be a 2-hour meeting. And that will hopefully be the last one. We can schedule another one if we need to, but during that meeting, we will be going through the list of actions and prioritizing which actions the residents of Albany would like to see in the future. There has been a project proposed by somebody from the town of Waterford to bring electricity to the transfer station in Albany that's shared by Waterford, Albany, and Stoneham. And so we didn't talk about it for very long during the last meeting, but for the time that we did talk about it, the residents seemed very supportive. A lot of them were not aware that there was no electricity at the transfer station. And so once they learned that, they seemed really enthusiastic about the idea. And then depending on how much it costs to bring electricity to the transfer station, we might also be able to upgrade some equipment there and maybe introduce a composting program or something like that. But we'll see, we'll have to get some cost estimates. But it seems like that's probably the direction that we're going to go in. We'll see what the residents think at the meeting on the 26th. But I'll update you all once we have a clearer idea of what the priorities are. And then in terms of next steps, CB will be applying for the Community Action Grant, which is $75,000 per community or $175,000 for a combined grant application, which if we do this collaborative project with Waterford, it will be $175,000. And so that the grant application is due on June 5th. And so hopefully we'll start working on that soon. Previously, the grant application had been a document that you could just download, edit, and then re-upload and share with the state. Recently, they just made a change so that there's an online portal. And so each community needs to create an account and then share that login information with anybody who will be working on the grant application. You only need to do one grant application per grant. So like if we do this collaborative project with Waterford, you might not need to create an account for Albany, because we can just do the collaborative grant application through Waterford account. And so I'll be in touch if an account does need to be created, and that login information will just have to be shared with me so that I can edit the document. And what else? Enrollment materials. Once we finish up those, the meeting on Sunday, the 26th, I will compile all of the meeting notes into a document that we can share. That will be one of the enrollment materials. Both of the self-assessments also need to be completed. I think Tony's working on that, and also Zane. And also the LUPC contributed some also. So once we have all of those documents, we'll just need the municipal resolution equivalent, which I'll come back to another commissioners meeting after this meeting is over. But basically the municipal resolution equivalent, we'll just need to say, these are the areas of the community actions that we would like to prioritize for this grant cycle, which give me permission to write the grant. So.
Do you think that May 7th would be a good time to do that?
Is that the next meeting?
The May 7th will be our next workshop meeting, and this is kind of like a workshop-y type kind of thing. That once we've got all the things, it would be the time to get them to make the motions and to sign.
Yeah, absolutely. So between now and then, I will draft a draft of it.
Okay.
And it just needs to be voted on and then signed. And then I can include that in the form that we need to submit to the state to enroll Albany Township.
When is the grant due?
June 5th. Yeah.
That'll give you plenty of time.
Yeah, that'll give us plenty of time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that May 7th we'll probably try to put you in around the same time.
12:30?
Yep.
Okay.
If that changes, then I'll give you an email and plenty of time to.
Okay, same here. I'll have to check my calendar just to make sure I'm available, but I'll reach out to you.
If you're not, and you have to zoom in or something like that, or provide documents, or you can always do that too.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. We'll figure something out.
Okay, any questions about Albany or Community Resilience Partnership?
A comment to fill in my colleagues up here. Tony and Zane and I have attended both of the CEBE discussions, and Tim was clarified that they were poorly attended initially, but better attended last time. And there was confusion at some point about, is this a follow-up to a forum last September,
Right.
which was very well attended. And I think you made that very clear that the Sunday 2 to 4, 12 to 2 is not a follow-up to the forum.
Right.
And it's specifically on the CEB issue. What I've heard, and I want to see Tony and Zane agree, a lot of frustration within the Albany area of junkyards. These junkyards popping up here and there, and people disposing of, not only automobile parts, but refrigerators and washing dryers and so on. And one thing that's happened since we were together at last is the roadway, Road 5, is going to put some impose upon some of those people who are disposing of household goods within sight of the roadway. DOT's plan is going to make sure that any of the junkyards in sight of the road construction going up Route 5 will be subject to their removal, or at least put the pressure on the landowners that are simply just throwing stuff through the front yard. The idea of improving the freeway Stoneham Albany Waterford trash elimination program, I think has merit and support. And it's in addition to electricity, heat, and making a more modern disposal, and maybe making it easier for Albany residents, including Mason Township, to come to that facility and get rid of their household goods rather than dumping in the front yard. But I'm wondering if we as a county, if it got expanded to more than the current proposal from the Waterford folks to do the electricity issue, to include something to be more proactive and environmentally conscious within Albany on trash elimination within the Albany land capacity. Would we need to be, as a county, a signatory or a financial agent to a larger project? As simply Albany not having a unit of government? Would the county be the applicant in that case?
For the community action grant?
Yeah.
So if Albany was applying by itself, yes. Since it'll be probably a collaborative grant application with Waterford, the Waterford Select Board could be the in charge of the grant. Unless if the county really would like to be in charge of that funding and distributing that funding to contractors, then we can work that out with Waterford. But I think since they have a more local governing body, it might make more sense for them to be responsible for the grant. But I'm open to being flexible about that. It's not really.
If the attitude on the 26th were to go to the 175 level and expand upon it to include some junkyard issues and resolutions, it would be within your parameters for have Waterford be the fiscal agent and we would be a partner in the process. That's good. I think they want help, yet there's a suspicion from last fall that they thought the forum, not something you initiated, was an attempt to force them to organize. And everybody that's asked me and some of the people that were here at a previous public meeting, I take part with that suspicion that all of this is all designed to make Albany become organized. I think we've cleared that away, don't you, Tony and Nate? I don't think anybody suspects that now, but there are a few that probably do.
Yeah, there was definitely mention of it at the meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. That careful, don't say that we're getting too organized because they're gonna make us a town. But yeah,
well, I guess just for me to stop, since we're imposing on your time frame too. Those flyers you have, is there any way to get more people in possession of them in addition to your electronic communication? And ways to get more people at the fire station at noontime on Sunday, the better, because we need to get this into a level of commitment and mission understanding so that you can start the working process.
Yeah. I printed 10. I would be happy to print more.
They didn't know.
I would suggest you speak with Nicole before you leave and at least meet 2 or 3 with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because she's over that way and she tends to hang on AJ's everything and a couple other places along the way. So Nicole's a very good resource for that.
Awesome. And I also have the sign-in sheet from everybody that attended the last one. And so I have some email addresses and some phone numbers. So I'll be making some calls just to make sure people know about it. And I've already sent out an email, but I'll send out another one. And I think Bob O'Brien from the Albany Improvement Association has also been sending out emails to his group. So hopefully we'll have quite a lot of people there.
Yes, John.
So on the meeting on Sunday, LUPC will not be present.
Right.
So I'm going to make a statement that this is not related to the forum, so Tamara can successfully complete her task for that meeting. So, and I did talk to LUPC last week, and they have no intentions of scheduling a follow-up meeting. If Albany wants a follow-up meeting, they're requesting that they organize one or present a time and a date to us, and then we'll do it with the LUPC. But they need to take that step in that direction, is LUPC's comments. And as far as the junkyards, I think the next round, and I think we could support if this comes up on their list, which I'm sure it will be on priority, so that next year we could apply for this separate grant be applied for the support of the commissioners for junkyards and some resolution to that type of work. So, and tomorrow I have a on-site visit with the LUPC enforcement group. We're gonna tour Albany again, so try to take advantage of some of the things that Maine DOT and has done already. And then while we got a little bit of momentum, we're gonna take advantage of that tomorrow.
Good.
So,
I'm wondering, since, the meeting on Sunday will be, hopefully there will be a lot of residents there, maybe I could send out a form or something, to help them schedule a meeting. I don't know, it's not, you know, that's not my role,
No.
but maybe I could help them.
that's not your role. You concentrate on your,
Okay.
what you're here for.
I didn't know they really want a follow-up meeting, so if there's
I'll
anything.
figure out a tool, a mechanism, because the LUPC's putting a pamphlet together for them, and I understand that Chip Jones is putting a website together for the UTs. Not just Albany, but all the old UTs in the state, so where to get the information that you need and so forth. So there's progress being made, and that's the result of the forum we had last year. So it's gonna be effective across all the UTs in the state, so if new tools. for everyone to use.
All right, so we will wrap up next because we're going to go on to anything else to add. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Tamara, for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tony. We have 3 executive sessions that we are going to take. And the second one is the one that we need to have the sheriff present for. So the plan now is that we're going to go into one executive session after another, but we will come out of executive session and vote to go back in for all 3. And if the votes need to be taken, we'll take that. So I need a motion. We're going to go into the second executive session.
Move that we go into executive session, discuss a personal matter, reference termination of under 1 MRS, subsection 456A.
All those in favor?
Or stop taking.
Okay, great. So I declare this out of executive session. We finished 2 executive sessions, and the one executive session that was to discuss a personnel matter regarding termination. We actually needed to table that, even though that was the original one we went into. We came out immediately. And so I would like a motion to table that, and I think we'll take that up on our next meeting on May 7th.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? It's been tabled. And we also need to take a vote regarding workman's comp and looking for an alternative to our current contract with MMA.
All right, I move that we authorize the sending of the letter as presented for looking for a new workers' comp provider.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, and then and there was no motion needed or no vote needed to be taken on the other executive session, which was to discuss a matter of salary. And so with that, our meeting is adjourned at 1:22.
Move.
All right, all those in favor?